time. Haven't heard your words and your voice in a while. I'm looking forward to that opportunity to do so, even now in this conversation with regards to this subject matter on today. We're going to have a great conversation. It's going to shock some of you guys. You're going to learn some different stuff here today. And you're gonna really see some stuff differently. Darian, man, my brother, good to be with you, Doc. We got to connect. Would you please try to contact me as soon as we're done here today at Elder Page? If you're on, please get brother Darian in touch with me. I really want to sit and chat with him. Someone can tag in Elder Page for me. I'd appreciate it. So we can get going here. Can someone do that for me? Come off mute. Let me know you heard my instructions.
Yes, sir.
All right, good. Thank you. Appreciate you so much. All right, everybody, let's take a moment to pray, shall we? Father, we come before you in the precious, in the matchless, in the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach, our Savior and our King. We love you. We adore you. We thank you for all things that are from you and of you. We do we do desire to embrace all that is you. In the precious, mighty, matchless name of Yeshua HaMashiach. And we're asking that you would teach us and show us all things you, for there is none like you in all of the earth. And we thank you for the way that you grace us with wisdom and understanding. And we so do desire to have your spirit and your wisdom in our head, heart, mind, body, and soul. This is our earnest prayer. So therefore, I decrease all things that are me, VWJ, that all things you would become evident and real. We do pray and ask that your purpose and plan for why we exist today will be made evident here. We wash in the blood. We make our own personal conviction that you are Savior, you are King, Yeshua, you lived, died, and rose again by the power of Yahweh, who is our Elohim. And we stand firmly in acceptance and believing of that. And we profess it with our mouths. We believe it in our hearts. And we're asking you, Yahweh, to hear our confession of said. And thank you for the salvation that comes with that particular proclamation. We love you to life eternal, and we bless your name forevermore. You alone are holy, you alone are righteous, and you alone are our Elohim. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of you, Yahweh, our Elohim, your Torah, your Tanakh. You are our Adonai, and our Adonai is, in fact, one. All right, everybody, we're going to get started. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful day so far. Those of you on Facebook, you know what to do. If you came in, hit that heart sign, hit that light sign, get yourselves up there where we need to be. Don't let anything keep you from that place. Moderators, tell us why we're here. All right, we'll keep moving. So today we want to make sure that we put ourselves in a position to where we want to talk about the proceeding word. Now, in the proceeding word, we have a concept called the biblical intent of fivefold ministry. And in light of that, we have an issue that befalls us in a very interesting way, because it puts us in the light of where we have to see all things that are Elohim. And in getting that, we now realize that he has an intention for what he wants of us. And then there is a way in which he wants certain things done. And we move according to his program and his way. But many times we operate a little bit differently because we really don't know his intentions. So in this conversation today, we will be talking about something that many of you may know on our platform of the proceeding word as KYC, but we are not here advocating KYC in any way, shape, or form. But KYC is the reason KYC exists is, in fact, because of this subject matter that is, I believe, very important and extremely urgent for us in the kingdom to really embrace and sort of kind of put ourselves in proper context of. So there is a way that we do things, and how many of you know that there's a way that Yahweh does things, and we don't always do things the way Yahweh says to do them. Would you all agree? I just asking because I don't have a friend,
It's true,
but I'm asking because it's necessary. Now, before we get started, because we need just a few more seconds here, because once I get started, we won't be stopping. So those who always love to get the announcements of what we're doing and what we're doing next, we have some programs tonight. We have a Bible study coming up. You don't want to miss that. You don't want to miss tonight's Bible study on Sukkah. Sukkah is coming up on you on September the 25th, and it will be on your back before you realize it. And we want it to be a blessing, not a burden to you. So we're asking you to pay attention to that. Are our moderators prepared? Are we here, mods?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Shalom.
Shalom. Mods, tell us why we're here.
Good afternoon and welcome to the preceding word this afternoon, where the topic is the biblical intent of fivefold ministry. What we do versus what he meant we do. The pressures of the man-made narrative as opposed to the spiritual intentions of the author, who also finished the demonstration of our faith. Well, why we just take a moment to do the announcements, if you will. Just ping somebody into the room. Don't forget, on the preceding word, we are here every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be back here this evening for our weekly Bible study at 7 p.m. where we are continuing the subject on Sukkot. I also note that we have the intents that we have had for the 21 days. I do hope that you've taken opportunity to go over to Instagram and Facebook, where you'll find us at VWJ Ministries, where we have the 21-day challenge. So please don't forget to share those memes as they come out, and also it may support and encourage somebody else as they go through the challenge for the next 21 days. Don't forget, we're here tomorrow on Thursday at 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our weekly Bible book club, where we're continuing to take a very informative and exhaustive read through the book of Genesis. We will be here for our Sabbath studies as normal. Every Friday we're here where we commence our studies at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we go from Genesis right down to Deuteronomy as we study the Torah and look at the how to Sabbath. And then we'll pick those studies back up on Saturday at 11 a.m. And if you have not done so already, take an opportunity to follow the Clubhouse. Also, click on Apostle's profile so you can follow him. We will be here for our weekly church service, which is our morrow after Sabbath service, which commences every Sunday at 10:15 a.m., where we broadcast live from Facebook, and we invite you to join us here in Clubhouse. We hope you have had the opportunity to ping and share this room. We thank you for being here with us. Apostle, back to you. Thank you.
Well, I want to say thank you for your aid and help in that matter, getting that information out. It's an important thing to do, and everybody, hope you grab this. Listen, if you got opportunity, you're going to sort of kind of want to, well, you might want to ping somebody into the room today, especially if they're talking about how to get the kingdom and the propagation of the kingdom forward and out to the masses. We're here purposefully to share that we can't live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh, who is our Elohim. And I want to just talk about it real quick, real quick. Man in the Mirror, 21-day challenge. Every day you wake up for the next 20 days now. Is that right, mods? How many days are we on? 20 days now? 19. The next 19 days. You want to wake up and ask yourself, look in the mirror every day, right when you're brushing your teeth with your bad breath and everything, sleep still in your eyes, you know, your hair all over your head, you haven't shaved. Look right in the mirror and tell yourself, hey, who am I going to emulate today? Look in your eyes, because the eyes are the windows to your soul. Look in your own eyes and ask yourself, who am I going to emulate today? And then you must answer yourself, I'm going to emulate the world, or I am going to emulate his word. That is your charge. And I'm hoping that many of you will take it. It's a serious one. A brother by the name of Brother Doc. I think I know who he is, but I don't know his profile. I hadn't had a chance to really sit and chat with him. But I love the implication he raised, and we took the challenge seriously, and we implemented it that very day. So we're glad to be with you, hoping that you guys can get the reality of why we do this, because we want you to have a relationship with the Father and not just a relationship of religion. Religion won't save you. The definition Hebraically of religion, true religion, is to be dutiful about the instructions of the Creator. That's what religion, true religion, is, right? It's not you going to church and jumping up and down in your denomination or your preferred, your denomination of preference. All right, everybody. So let's get started. Thank you, moderators, for giving us that information and bringing us into that place of knowledge. We want to make sure that you guys get this opportunity to share this all over the world. Okay, so look now into this that we do. Am I to understand that there's some kind of IG issues going on my page? I'm being flooded with IG. It might be that I've been hacked in my IG. And, you know, you only get attacked when you're doing something for the work of Elohim. I'm not going to call it the devil. It's just evil when someone else decides to attack you because of what you've taught, what you're sharing, what you're teaching. It's evil. I'm not even going to call it the devil. I'm not going to call nobody the devil. I'm not going to give anybody the opportunity for that. But I want you guys to make sure that if you get anything from me, know that I don't advertise. I don't expose people on IG. I don't ask for money. We don't do that in this ministry. We don't ask you for a thing. We teach you what the word says. It's up to you to comply. So if anybody ever says we're doing a campaign for money, it is not us. Okay. So I just want y'all to know that. All right, Facebook, if you're on it, come on, hit that heart sign, hit that like sign. Let's get started right now in all things that are Elohim. Well, today, go with me to Ephesians chapter number 5. Actually, chapter 4. Let's go to Ephesians chapter 4. I want to talk about this today. In a program that we have called the Know Your Calling program. And we're not advertising this program, but this is the reason why we have the program, because many people who get saved don't really know what their calling is. And I want to kind of bring that up. So I really want conversation from the people today. It's going to be more of a actual dialogue, more so than a monologue. And it will be vacillating back and forth between that. But I want us to really do this together if it is at all possible. If it is at all possible to have that done, that we might understand. I am, again, traveling. So in my travels, you know, we're always on location. I'm trying to get our spaces and our studio time set up for our Bible study tonight. So you guys keep us in prayer with that while we're on the road, as it were. And so let's talk about this subject of who you are, who Yahweh made you to be, and who it is that you do. Minister Jackie, would you do me a favor? Would you read the description again for today's program? Because I want to make sure the hearing gets in, the words get into the hearing of the people. So when we start talking about this biblically, you will be able to see and identify what it is that's going on. Minister, why does that happen?
Shalom, everyone. The topic for today is the biblical intent of fivefold ministry.
The biblical intent of fivefold ministry. Read on.
What we do versus what he meant we do. The pressures of the man-made narrative as opposed to the spiritual intentions of the author, who also finished the demonstration of our faith.
So in essence, we talk about fivefold ministry. Now, I want some of you guys who are able to come off your mics and talk. I really want you to do that. Did anybody get my dear friend? Bring up my dear friend. Everybody, send everybody that's on platform a microphone to come up, please. And I want you all to take microphones because you're all going to probably want to talk today. Just for a couple seconds, I want everybody who can accept a microphone to take a microphone because you're going to want to talk. Do it in order. And when we ask you to speak in the dialogue, then you will say your name. We'll put you on cue. Say your name clearly. I don't care if somebody's speaking, just say your name. Our moderators will hear your name, put you in queue, because we're going to talk today about something many of us don't understand. And it's the reason our churches are divided. It is the reason you have Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, Lutheran, Wesleyan, Four Squares, Church of God, Assemblies of God, Church of Christ, Church of Jesus, Jesus only. It's the reason you have all the denominations that you have. And I want to make sure that you and I understand Yahweh never intended that. So when we talk about fivefold ministry, let's really dig into this and get an understanding. So I got some other great dynamic speakers on the platform with me. I've got Pastor Andrea. I've got Pastor Mary Roach. I got her husband, Prophet Michael Roach. And we all have had a brief conversation about this, and we all have the same type of conviction. Many of them, all of us, I wrote the program for KYC. We're not advertising it. And these individuals came through it. And I was very interested listening to their testimonies of how it changed the trajectory of not only their purpose in serving the kingdom, and then change their viewpoint and perspective of what service actually meant and how we should do it. So let's get everybody up to speed. One more time, Minister Jackie, I need your voice one more wonderful London time. Would you read again just the description of today's program? Just the description, not the title. Go.
What we do.
What we do.
Versus
what we do versus
what he meant we do.
Mm-hmm.
The pressures of the man-made narrative as opposed to the spiritual intentions of the author, who also finished the demonstration of our faith.
So we have an author and a finisher of our faith, right? And we all know that that author and finisher of our faith is the person Yeshua HaMashiach, right? Who is our Messiah. He is Isaiah 9:6 manifestation of the child that was born, Yeshua, and the son of Elohim that was given to live in that vessel, child born. And that is what makes him the Mashiach. Yeshua is a child promised in Genesis 3:15, and the son given is the son promised in Genesis, or I should say John 3:16. So you got the child born, Genesis 3:15, and the son given, John 3:16, cohabitating in vessel, John 1:14, and the word Adonai became flesh, the child born, and then he dwelt among us and we beheld his glory, right? That's our Mashiach. So now we understand this because he became the author. The Adonai is the author because he's the word. The author means an author puts down words. Words make paragraphs. Words make sentences. Sentences make paragraphs. Paragraphs makes chapters. Chapters makes books, right? So Adonai is the word in flesh. So in order for the word to get fulfilled, there had to be a flesh suit demonstrating how it got done. This is going to blow some of your minds. That is the author and the finisher of our faith, the person Yeshua HaMashiach. Because Adonai authored it, Yeshua was wearing Yeshua, and Yeshua finished it on the cross. That's why Yeshua said, "It is finished." Did y'all get that? Somebody say author and finisher of my faith. Y'all don't have that excitement I need, but that's okay. We're gonna keep moving anyway, because that was deep right there. That's gonna hit y'all one day, like 4 months from now. You're like, oh snap. Okay, so here we go. So he is the author and the finisher of our faith. And faith comes by hearing, and hearing comes by the word of Elohim, right? And the word of Elohim is in fact the Torah. And we've taught you many different times that the word of Elohim is in your Bible. It is not the complexity of your Bible. It is found in your Bible, the first 5 books. And those first 5 books, as you already know, are Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Devarim. Those are the first 5 books. Those are the books that Joshua said when they came into and over Jordan, they conquered Jericho and went into the promised land. They says, if you want to go back and obey the edicts from the old kingdom of Pharaoh before we got over here to our promised land, you can do that. But as for me and my house, we're going to obey the words Yahweh gave Moshe, which are the Torah, and that's going to be what my house does. We're going to serve Yahweh. We're going to serve the word. We're going to serve the Lord. And then from there, from Joshua all the way through Malachi, are testimonials of the very same people who did or did not obey those first 5 books. Because if you obeyed it, you were blessed. If you disobeyed it, you were cursed with the curses of both Devarim 28 as well as the blessings of Devarim 28. So when you obeyed the writ, which Joshua said, as for me and my house, we gonna serve Yahweh. Okay, you can serve who you want. Choose you this day who you going to serve. Now, once we know that faith was the word of Elohim, without that faith, without those instructions, there is no way on this earth you can please the Father. If the Father gave you an instruction and you disobeyed it, you did not please him. You can't possibly please him because you're not obeying his instructions. But we don't need to learn that stuff. That's for the Jews. It wasn't given to the Jews. There was not a Jew on the planet when the Torah was rendered. And there wasn't a Jew on the planet for hundreds of years after that when the Torah was rendered. Hundreds of years after that. Centuries after that. They disobeyed the Torah. Then they ended up coming up with the Jews. And then they came up with the Samaritans because you got the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom by a civil war. Back to the point of why we're here today, because I got to move very fast and the conversation is going to go very quickly. So when you understand the Torah, you understand the instructions. Messiah is the living Torah. He demonstrated to us how to obey Elohim contrary to Adam, which is why Messiah is called the second Adam, because the second Adam obeyed the word to death. The first Adam disobeyed the word on the first go round, and we ended up in sin. You know, now I got issues I shouldn't have had to have. You got issues you shouldn't have had to have because of your forefathers. And you came into this earth just as fresh and green and ready to do his will, and then got sidetracked by your flesh, all because of Adam not obeying the instructions unto his death. If he had obeyed the instructions unto his death, we'd be living a completely different life in this world today. Y'all need to know that. That's why the second Adam came, to show us the option, to show us the out, to show us the redemptive element and the process for which to be successful, pleasing the Father. Does that make sense to y'all? Is that making sense to you? So the kingdom of Elohim was designed to follow the instructions that Yahweh gave to Moshe when he brought them out of the kingdom of Egypt, out of Pharaoh's control, to go into the wild place and start the kingdom under the edict of the Torah. Now, that edict gave us this very simple instruction. Paul, Ephesians chapter 4. Come with me real quick. Ephesians chapter 4. Come on, let's go. Ephesians chapter 4 talks about what Adonai did for us, talks about what Adonai did for us as the living Torah. Watch. He says, I therefore a prisoner, verse 1, of Adonai. Did y'all catch that? I therefore a prisoner of the word. That's what he says. I beseech you, I beg you that you walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you have been called into this life. So basically, the vocation means an invitation or a calling wherewith you have been called. See, what Yahweh did before he brought you into the earth, you were a soul in the mind of Elohim before you put on this flesh, which causes you distractions and complications. Your soul is pure. However, your soul got put into this flesh suit and then spewed or pushed through the pelvic, through the womb into this world. And now your soul has this trapping and this cage it's in called your flesh. And it has skewed our vision because of Adam's failure. And Yahweh sent his word to fix our vision so we could see better and we can understand his will better, even though we're still in this flesh suit, which keeps feeding us different types of proclivities and propensities and temptations and different types of tastes we can acquire and generational issues our fathers and our mothers acquired and we were born with because they had them. And then when we flirt with it, now we got it. And we're going to possibly send it on to our children. Only the word can clean that, heal that, stop that, and give some proper maintenance of those issues, which will forever be with your lineage. So when we understand this, Paul says, I am now a prisoner of the word. That's what that means. He says, I therefore, a prisoner of Adonai, I beseech you that you and I walk worthy of the vocation wherewith we were called into this world. So when Yahweh put you in the world, he spewed you from his mind. He pushed you out from his mind. You are his thought. You are his creation. Your soul is his. He pushed your soul into the earth. You had to be wrapped in flesh to walk in the earth. You came through your parents, grabbed up all their luggage and their baggage and their issues and their struggles, and now they're yours. You have to determine what you're going to operate in. These are facts. Watch this. And so now when Yahweh puts you in that, he calls you into earth. And watch this. Now he's calling you into the earth to do his will. You've been called to do a certain thing. Verse number 2 says, with all lowliness and meekness and long suffering and forbearing of one another in love, enduring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of shalom, in the bond of peace, in the bond of completeness, in the bond of welfare, in the bond of mental soundness, in the bond of security of who you are, no insecurity issues. That's what shalom does. That's an entire bond, right? There is one body. That's Messiah's body. There is one spirit. That is the spirit of the word. And even as you are called, in one hope of why you have been called into the earth, one Adonai, one faith, that's the word, one baptism, submersing in that word. There is one God, our Elohim. There is one Yahweh, our Elohim. There is one Father of all of us, who is above all of us, who actually operates through all of us. And when you let him in, he operates in you all as well. Verse 7. But unto every one of us, I need y'all to come off mic and say, every one of us. Say it, every one of us.
Every one of us.
I'm about to make theologians who got their degrees and got their collars and got their crosses very upset with this, but I promise you, we're going to bring it into order. There is unto, verse 7, Ephesians 4:7, Facebook, I need you to stay with me. He says, but unto every one of us is given grace. That word grace, again, is a word that's connected to the word charis. And that word charis is given the actual manner or act, and figuratively and spiritually influential, divine influence. That's what grace means. Divine influence. It's benefits. It's power. It's liberality. It's worthiness that we are supposed to have. So this grace, this power of Elohim, has been given according to the measure of the gift of Messiah. I do here despise the fact that they use Christos over the word Mashiach, because Mashiach references the Adonai. Now, Christos represents two things. I said three, but two things. The one thing that Christos represents is the anointed one. Second thing is, and his anointing. But that was a poor translation for the Greek from the Hebrew. The Hebrew word here that Paul wrote was Mashiach, which means the Adonai in flesh. It doesn't just represent Yahweh's anointed one and the anointing on him, because Adonai is Elohim. It goes deeper. It gives all the definitions of Isaiah 9:6, wonderful counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace. Shalom is that peace. That shalom is 13 attributes: safety, soundness of mind, clarity of thought, wealth, health, prosperity, tranquility, harmony with the world, safety and security of mind, wholeness and completeness. All of that is the Adonai. All of that is Mashiach. It doesn't reference that in Christos. So that's why I don't like that word there. It's not the word you need to know, because it leaves you shallow in understanding the depth. You can't get called unto the deep unless you define what the deep is. And Christos does not give you deep. It keeps you in the baby side of the pool. I grew up in a neighborhood where we had the baby side of the pool, which was like 6 inches to 2 feet. And then you had the 8 to 15 foot at the big people's side of the pool before they started getting real safety conscious and stopped the 15-foot pools. And so you played down there. That was deep, right? This baby stuff, you can flop around and lay on your gut and never get drowned. You go out there in 15 feet, it gets deep. So I want you to understand, we got to be on the deep side of the pool here. And this Christos left us on the shallow end, the baby end. That's why Paul was telling them, y'all still sucking on milk. It's time for y'all to get into the deep. It's time for y'all to cut up your own steak. Mommy and daddy shouldn't have to chew your feet and chew your meat for you until it's puree and then feed it to you through a straw. It's time for you to use your canines that you were given and bite and tear this flesh so you can digest it and get all these nutrients in your system without having your mom and dad water it down for you. Let's get into this part. Now, here's what we're talking about. Verse number 7 says, but unto every one of us is given grace according to the measure of the gift of Messiah. Verse 8 says, wherefore he, Adonai, said, when he, Adonai, ascended up on high, he led captivity captive, and he, Adonai, not Jesus, Adonai gave gifts unto men. This is where my theologians get mad at me. This is where I want my theologians to give me a moment to explain to you what it is we thought we learned in theology. Remember, I have 2 PhDs, so I have 2 degrees in this. All of them I want you to understand what this looks like, so you will know that we have studied everything you've studied, and we know it. We've preached it, we've mastered it, and we've actually we are authorities, literally, in the organizations you have been sanctioned in. But here is what this meant. Wherefore he said, when he ascended, this is Adonai ascending, not Yeshua. Adonai led captivity captive. He went into hell. He went into Hades. He went down into a place where all souls that died prior to the cross were gathered. There were 2 areas that the souls gathered. There was a 3rd area that was just this mass betwixt them, right? And so you had paradise and you had Hades, you had hell. So to understand this, remember when Messiah was hanging on the cross during Pesach, and there were 2 malefactors hung on both sides of him. One of them said, very sarcastically, if you are the Messiah, then come down off the cross and save us too. The other guy was like, yo, bro, you tripping. Why you talking to him like this? He don't deserve to be up here. He ain't done nothing. We did what we did. We got busted. We got caught. So you out of line. Yeshua. And then the guy said to Yeshua, remember me when you come into your glory, right? Remember me when you come into your position. I know who you are. I get it now. I'm dying. I can confess it. Messiah says to him on that cross. Does anybody remember what Messiah said to him on that cross? If you do, I want you to come off your mics and at the count of 3 and tell me what Messiah said. And we're going to all say it together. Messiah said to him, 1, 2, 3, this day shall you be with me in heaven, right?
Yes.
No, he said paradise. No. And here's why he said paradise, because he was not taking them to heaven. Every soul that died in the cross, every soul that died in righteousness or unrighteousness prior to the cross went to one of 2 places. They went to paradise, or they went to Hades, which is all in Sheol. So Sheol has paradise, a gulf of fixed, and Hades. Let me put it to you right. There was paradise and there was hell, and a big gulf affixed between the 2 of them. So when Messiah told the guy while on the cross, this day prior to the cross, you shall be with me in paradise. Let that sink in. So when he dies, Messiah dies, they are together in paradise. Guess where the other guy went? He went to hell. That was across the gulf of fixed. That's called Sheol. That's where all the souls that died went to. There was a side for the righteous and there was a side for the unrighteous. Unrighteous was in hell. The righteous went to paradise. But paradise is not heaven. So they were captive. They were locked in paradise. Just like those who died in unrighteousness, they were locked in hell. We've been even teaching a narrative so wrong that we're telling people about the difference between heaven and hell. You're missing it. The difference should be between heaven, which is eternal life, and the lake of fire, which is eternal damnation. Paradise was a holding cell for those due to heaven. Hell is only a holding cell for those heading to the fire. You don't understand that? Let me help you. Many of you gotta. How many of y'all gotta bail your children out of jail sometime, or maybe yourself? Jail sometimes. You get arrested. You got to go to jail, right? Before you can get out of jail, before you can go to the courts, they put you in a holding cell. right? And then that's where you start getting processed, right? But once you come through court, you stand before the judge. If you don't have bail, you stay in jail. If you do have bail, you get out of jail to come back to court to get charged. If convicted, you go to the pen. You go to higher security or medium security, federal, or maybe even county or state incarceration state, right? But where you were when you got arrested was called jail. That would be your version of hell. And then after the judgment, where they send you to would be the eternal and lake of fire. Y'all get that comparison? That's what I need y'all to see. This is deeper than we have been really propagating. So now, do y'all get that? Let me know. Come off mic. Yes, no, maybe so.
Yes.
Okay. So paradise is a holding cell for heaven. Hell is a holding cell for the lake of fire. Stop comparing whether you're going to go to heaven or hell. It's wrong. Stop. Don't do it no more. So anyway, here's the catch. So when you died prior to the cross, this is what verse number 8 says. He says in Ephesians 4:8, wherefore he said, when he ascended up on high, he, Adonai, led captivity captive, and he, Adonai, gave gifts unto men. Why? Because when Adonai died, when Yeshua died on the cross, can anybody tell me what happened? Anybody want to tell me what happened when Messiah died on the cross? Anybody know what happened when Messiah died on the cross? What did they do with his body? Come off mic, say your name, and I'll give you a score. Go.
Rogers.
Come on, Rogers, quick.
They put his body in a borrowed tomb.
They put his body in a borrowed tomb. So the body of Yeshua went into a borrowed tomb. Well, does anybody know who lived in Yeshua while Yeshua walked on the earth?
Rogers.
Come on, Rogers.
Adonai
lived in Yeshua while he walked on the earth. So if they laid the body of Yeshua in the grave, it was Adonai that went down into hell.
Yes, sir.
So it was Adonai, verse number 8, that says, wherefore when he ascended up on high and led captivity captive, he gave gifts unto men. It wasn't Jesus that gave you your calling. It was the word of Elohim. It was Adonai that gave you your calling. Now let's get past that. Verse 9 says, now that he ascended, Adonai, what is it but he also descended first into the lower parts of the earth? That's where Adonai, dropping the body of Yeshua off in the grave, a borrowed tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, where you found later on that the tomb was rolled away and Yeshua rose. Well, Yeshua was laying in that grass and laying in that tomb, laying in that sepulcher, while Adonai, which is what filled Yeshua, went down into the earth and released those that were in paradise, led them captive back up into heaven, and then allowed for hell to expand itself and use that for those who would die in unrighteousness after the cross. Yeah, I feel that teacher coming up on me right now. Are y'all learning? I feel that teacher coming on me right now. So when you understand this, it changes the perplexity. It changes the complexity of how we teach this message. Now let's get back to the point of what we talk about kingdom and what Yahweh intended. We're still in Ephesians chapter 4. So just to give you that little bit of trivia, we'll call it that, though it is definitely not trivial. So verse 9 says, now he that ascended, what is it but he that descended first into the lower parts of the earth? He that descended, the Adonai, is the same which also ascended far above all heavens, that he might fill all things. Because Yahweh sent his son into the earth. Yahweh sent his son into the earth. He sent Adonai into the earth, dressed him in Yeshua, made him take Yeshua, the lamb, to the cross, make the sacrifice, put him in the grave, and the son, Adonai, watch this, the word went down into Sheol, set Sheol in a whole nother way of doing things. Now Sheol is completely hell. Took paradise, led them captive into heaven because they lived in righteousness and died in righteousness. They were in paradise. They were captive in paradise. I'm good with being captive in paradise. How about you? I'm good with being captive in paradise. Right. Okay. But what he does is he goes down and he releases, he upgrades them. Y'all like to talk about Beyonce? I'm way behind. I'm really way behind. So she sung this, what, 12 years ago? You know, let me upgrade you. Yeah, Adonai went down and upgraded those who died in righteousness and took them from paradise into heaven so they could sit with the Father where he resides, because everybody who dies after the cross now in unrighteousness, they need a place to go. So he expanded hell, gave hell the right to take over the place that was between them and the new place, that paradise where the righteous dead were in. You know who was in paradise when Messiah hung on that cross? Can I teach y'all? Do y'all want to learn?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Come on, I need more than the amen corner to say they want to learn, because I know y'all want to learn, because y'all know y'all going to learn. But anybody else want to learn what happens in that space?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do y'all know who was? Let me tell y'all who was in paradise. Listen, you know who was in paradise? King David. You know who was in paradise? King Solomon. I believe he made it. You know who was in paradise? I believe Adam made it. He was in there too. You know who was in paradise? Moshe. When Moshe, when he won the glory. Elisha was in there. Samson, he was in there. Aaron was in there. Miriam was in there. Seth was in there. All those great men in your Bible. Deborah was in there. Yep. You know that she was in there. Yep. Abiathar was in there. Nathan was in there. Hezekiah, Daniel was in there. Ezekiel was in there. Jonah was in there. Malachi was in there. John the Baptist was in there. Did y'all know that all of them was in there? They were the ones in paradise. He led them captive into heaven. Now, once he caused the occupancy level to change in paradise, hell could occupy it now for those who would come after the cross. I got to keep reading. Did y'all learn something just then?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Now, this is why we're here talking about the kingdom. So verse number 9 says, now he that ascended, what is it but he that also descended first? Verse 10, he that descended is the same that also ascended far above all heavens. Who is far above all heavens? Adonai is. Who now in heaven is in Adonai? Yeshua is. He's in Adonai. He is not Adonai. Apostle, right? If you and I have the word in us, we got Adonai in us. If we obey that word now unto death, our reward is that when we get into heaven, we sit in Adonai too. We are not Adonai. We are in Adonai. Now that's going to really mess up a lot of my theologians, because we just believe one thing, and I'm not going to touch that subject today without getting in trouble. So let's move on. But you see clearly that once Messiah sits in Adonai, he sits in the seat of the right hand of the Father, which is the seat of the Son, which is the seat of the Word. Watch this. And when Adonai went down into paradise, Sheol, to lead captivity into heaven, the Word did not return to the sender of the word void. Let me help y'all, because there's a passage y'all been quoting for years. Yeah, that was good right there. There's a passage that needs to be quoted, and the word will not return unto him void. That's why it was imperative for the word, who took the body of Messiah, made sure it got on that cross, for him to say, what you sent me here to do, it is finished. The word now returns to the Father, and it did not return void of its actual assignment.
My God. Hallelujah.
Yahweh be praised.
So I do these little ancillary pieces, which are relative, but not my point, so that you will see if we misunderstood that, what else did we misunderstand? Let me show you. Now watch. So verse number 11 says verse 10 says, he that descended is also the one that ascended far above all heavens, so that he might fill all things. Remember in Hebrews, when Adonai was talking to Yahweh, chapter 10, verse 5, he says, sacrifices and offerings you wouldest not, but you prepared me a body. So I'm gonna carry that body down there, get it sacrificed, so that that blood of your body can redeem and atone for the sins of the people, right? I'm going to finish that job for you, Father. Lo, I come in the volume of your book, which I wrote and is written of what I'm going to do your will, O Lord. See, the word. He authored the word. He also finished the word. Now you see the author and the finisher of our faith. Aha.
My goodness.
Aha. Okay, we're not.
Yeah.
Two of y'all got it. Okay, great. So it says in verse 10 where he says, he that descended is also the same that ascended first above all heavens. Here it is. I want y'all to catch this. Jesus did not give you your calling. I love Yeshua. I love him, love him, love him, love him. You know why I love Yeshua? Because he obeyed the word like Adam did not. He obeyed the word that like I did not. He obeys the word like you do not. That's why we love Yeshua.
Amen. Amen.
Ooh, viewership just dropped. He talking crazy.
That's all right. Keep telling it.
That's why we love Yeshua. Stop misappropriating the purpose of Yeshua, because then you disrespect the work of Adonai that was in him. Make that a quote. Okay, we got 4 people on Facebook doing the floor ministry. Napkin ministry on Clubhouse. Can y'all reach over and help them, please? We got 4 people passed out in Club and Facebook. Y'all, one person's running around the church. The other person laid out on the floor. Can y'all send over the napkin ministry into Facebook? Clubhouse, y'all not even gonna help them?
We got them.
We're having the same issue.
Y'all all laid out too. Are you guys learning? Flash your mics if y'all learning. I know it might be hard to receive. Is it giving you something to consider? Now watch this as we go deeper. Let's go deeper. We're on the big side of the pool. We're on the adult side of the pool. This is the deep called in the deep. You ready? Now watch this. I need you to catch this. So he that descended is who gave you your calling. Every one of us have a gift, right? Let me tell you what the gift is. Now, I'm going to open up. Here we go. The dialogue is about to start. Our guest speakers are going to speak about this. And I got a few minutes to get this done. But I hope I set a good foundation for you so you understand what the kingdom is about when it comes to fivefold ministry. Every one of us, say that to yourself. Say, I have a gift of Adonai. Say that. I have a gift of Adonai.
I have a gift of Adonai.
Adonai, who is God. Adonai is Elohim. Adonai, not Jesus, gave me a gift before he sent me into this world. Here are the gifts of Adonai. This is the job you are to perform in the earth. You are not called to sing. You are not called to preach. You are not called to napkin ministry. You are not called to administrations. You are not called to prayer.
Wow. Come on.
You're not called to be a prayer warrior. There's no such friggin' thing. We made that up. Let's talk about what Elohim said.
That one more time.
There is no such thing as a prayer warrior. We got one because we made them up and we've been rocking like that for a minute. I ain't mad at you. Pray on. We need you. However, that's not a calling. That's a Christian calling. You want the kingdom? The kingdom is Adonai, Yahweh, and Ruach HaKodesh. And what they say is what pleases Elohim. Oh, by the way, they are Elohim. Y'all go by somebody in London. I need somebody in London to go by a province that Miss Taylor is in and pick her up off the floor, please. I need that to happen. She's calling out. She's able to type. Well, if you can type, get up off the floor. If you can type, get off the floor.
Help me, help me, help me. The truth, the truth, the truth, the truth. My Lord in heaven.
So listen, you have Adonai, who is Elohim. He gave all of us one of 5 offices. There are 5 offices, 5 jobs of Adonai for the humans he sends into the earth. Watch this. Verse 11 says, he, Adonai, not Jesus. And I love, don't you talk about my Yeshua, I will hurt you. Don't think I'm disrespecting my Yeshua. I'm just not misappropriating him and disregarding Adonai. Look, and Adonai gave gifts unto men. He gave some apostles and some prophets and some evangelists. Matter of fact, you know what I want everybody to do? If you're watching me on Facebook, I want you to put your hand, just take your fist. I want you to ball your fist up, make your palm face your nose. And then I want you to, I don't care how you do it, make your palm face your nose and then ball your fist up. Make sure your thumb is on the outside. Don't put your thumb on the inside. You'll break your hand like that. You'll break your hand if you punch somebody like that. But put your thumb on the outside like it's supposed to be. That's how you do it, right? Okay, cool. Now you got everybody got your fist balled up? Say yes or no. I got my fist balled up, right?
Yes.
Amen.
Okay, now when I say them, I want you to lift them. Okay. So he gave some, verse 11, he gave some apostles. Pull your thumb back. Lift it up, just like I did with my hand. Pull your thumb back. There you go. Daphne, that was cute. Lift your thumb up. That's the apostle. Then he gave some prophets. Lift up your pointer finger. Yep, that's the prophet. He gave some evangelists. Lift your middle finger up. Don't you dare leave it by itself. Don't be shooting me the bird. Just lift the middle finger up. Stay saved for a few minutes. Lift the middle finger up. That's the evangelist. And then he gave some pastors. Lift up the ring finger. And then he gave some teachers. Lift up the pinky. That is the 5-fold ministry. It's your right hand. I'm pausing for effect. You didn't freeze. Now, if you notice that the prophet, the evangelist, the pastor, and the teacher are all 3-flanged entities on the top of your palm. And then you have the apostle, which is a 2-flanged entity hanging out from the side. There's a reason for that. This is 5-fold ministry. If any part of your body hurts, your forehead, it is this complete hand that comes to the aid of the wiping of your sweat. If you hurt your finger, some part of it looks to fix the part that's hurt. You hurt your eye, your hand, your elbow, your arm, it rubs. Your hand is the place that goes to secure, to touch, to fix. You brush your teeth, your hand does it, pushed by the arm. Your nose is sweating, you need to blow it, your hand does it. All of these fingers help your body function. They aid externally what your body internally has to do when necessary. If your brain says I got to lift something, your hand picks it up. Now your arm and your muscles, they work too. The body goes to it, but it's the end of that particular appendage that grabs that unit together. And if the thumb, the finger, if the thumb, the pointer finger, the middle finger, the ring finger, and the pinky are not there, it becomes a difficult task to do it with just 2 or 3. And most of your churches are operating like that. Every church should have a full functioning set of hands. But what we've done is we've made the pastor, who the church Christendom ordains, because the bishop or some false prophet says, I see you as a pastor. I see you as the prophet of God. I see you as the psalmist and the minstrel of God in the house. And you're going to be singing aromatic words and singing the fluidity of tunes and chords and keys and cadences. That's what you're going to be. I see, God, you've been called to servitude. You've been called. Shut up. I will tell any voice speaking like that to shut it up, because that's not what a calling is. Let me help you. Go to the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter number 11, chapter 12. 1 Corinthians, chapter 12. Come on, quick. I ain't got all day. Y'all there yet? Come on, 1 Corinthians, chapter 12. Are y'all there yet?
does. It does.
Are y'all there yet?
Yeah.
Yes.
Come on, come on. Now, for those of you who don't know this, while you're still trying to get the 1 Corinthians chapter 12, I'm going to give you a couple of more seconds to get this next revelation. Isaiah 53. We thought it was strictly about the crucifixion of our Savior. He was bruised for our iniquities, chastised for our peace, right? But verse 1 talks about the fivefold ministry. We just didn't realize it. Watch, because it says, whose report shall we believe? Because the fivefold ministries report is what we're supposed to believe. But watch this. And to who shall the arm of Yahweh be revealed? The arm bone connected to the wrist bone. So for the body to do a work of the Father, the arm bone must be connected to the hand so that the hand can reach out and finally touch what Yahweh once touched in the earth. All right, let me go to that. I'm gonna go to 1 Corinthians 12. I'll let Yahweh talk to you about that later. 1 Corinthians chapter 12. Now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not have you be ignorant. You know that you were once Gentiles. You were carried away by all these dumb idols in Catholicism and in Christendom and all these different places we go to and say that women can't preach and speaking in tongues is no good and apostles are no longer today and speaking in tongues is not real and dancing like that ain't real and you got to pray this way 97 days. You know that you were Gentiles carried away with dumb idols. Oh, y'all didn't see that coming? Y'all didn't see that coming? Oh, okay. You were Gentiles carried away with dumb idols, even as you were led. Wherefore, I'm giving you now to understand that no man speaking by the Spirit of Elohim can ever call Yeshua accursed, and that no man who says that Yeshua is Adonai, they can only do that by Ruach HaKodesh. Now, there are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit. Verse 5, there are differences of administrations, but the same Adonai. Verse 6, there are diversities of operations, but it is the same God, Yahweh, who works all in all. So in verses 4, 5, and 6, you see something very dynamic that many didn't catch up on. KYC, what did we just do?
Read line by line.
Not only did we read line by line, but what you just found out in verse 4 was he just identified God the Holy Spirit, verse 4, God the Son, Adonai, verse 5, and God who is Yahweh, verse 6. He just gave us the Godhead.
Yes.
Verse 7 says, but I only want to talk about the things about Ruach HaKodesh. That's what verse 7 says. But the manifestation of the Spirit of Ruach HaKodesh, that which he does, every man will have this so that they can profit within the calling that Adonai, verse number 5, has given them. So what that means is that when you and I get our calling of Adonai, not your calling from your bishop, not your calling from your favorite prophet who speaks into your life lies, sorry, and those who all, because they only want to see, you know, the benefit of the church. How's the church profit with your resource? Be it your IP, your finance, or whatever it is. I'm just talking, y'all. So this is important because it says to you that Paul says, I'm only going to talk to you about the gifts of the Spirit because there are other gifts of Adonai. You just read them in Ephesians 4. These are the gifts of the Spirit. So the gifts of the Spirit are different than the gifts which are basically the job of Adonai for you in the earth. The reason you live is what Adonai says. And then Ruach HaKodesh dresses you, supplies you, just like the military, your general issue. So if you're in the military, I'm going to pick the Army because it's the easiest one to explain it. When you come into the military, you all come through boot camp. When you come through boot camp, you then get pushed into what's called advanced individual training. Right? Because when you get advanced individual training, it's based on your test scores and what you elected or they put you in when they brought you in the Army before they put you in boot camp. Once they took your tests and saw your capacity, they found out what you best fit, they put you in that job. Once they put you in that job, everybody got to transfer and come through boot camp. If you make it through boot camp, that job is yours. So they've already got you pre-scheduled for advanced individual job training. Once you pass the capacity test for the AIT, you move into your military occupational specialty, your job. But here's the catch. When you come through boot camp, you get given general issue boots, general issue vests, general issue weapons, general issue clothing, general issue food, and a backpack, and some other stuff. Brass knuckles and scuba gear is all general issue. Then once you come to AIT, they put you in a general place where you sleep, you go to mess. All of that stuff is general issue. This is the general things you need to do to bring your job into its fullest and most capable completion. So the general issue, Ruach HaKodesh, equips you with the tools you're going to need. If you need a pencil, general issue. You need a laptop, general issue. You need a phone, general issue. You need a Jeep, general issue. You need a barracks, general issue. You need razors, general issue. You need showers, general issue. Somebody say Ruach HaKodesh.
Ruach HaKodesh.
Then they take you to AIT, where all these general issue items you carry with you will help you accomplish the task and the capacity for your brain to aid the military at whole, the operations of the military. Now you have general issue. Everybody got ink pens. Everybody got phones. Everybody got this. Everybody got boots. Everybody got shirts. Everybody got t-shirts. Everybody got a mess hall. Everybody got blues, dress greens, dress whites, whatever it may be, hats and caps, general issue. But what you each do, though dressed alike, is different. So the military can look like one. You go to your advanced individual. You go to your military occupational specialty. You go to your job. So all that general issue, that's Ruach HaKodesh. That's verse 4, 1 Corinthians chapter 12. Verse 5 is your MOS, your military occupational specialty, the reason we put you in the army. That's what Adonai gives you. Those things are different. Don't confuse them. So whatever the differences are, there may be 5 different military occupational specialties, but everybody dresses the same way. Everybody uses the same tablet. Everybody uses the same laptops. Everybody uses the same pencils, the same pens, the same Jeeps. But what you do once you stop to work for the military, you then show your differentiations, which makes it diverse, which makes it one. Y'all not going to act like I ain't break that down. That's not what y'all going to do. Y'all not going to sit there and act like.
Very powerful and well said, sir.
Hallelujah. Very good.
Now, why did I have to go that whole route? Somebody's mad at me. I don't know who you are. I pray you're okay with me. Come on back to me and talk to me later on. Just make sure you ask your questions. I want to know who you are if you're mad. Watch this. So with this understood, when you understand your military occupational specialty does not stop you from still looking like your brother or your sister who does something completely different from you. But so that the enemy and those you protect might know whose side you're on, you all look the same. General issue.
Oh, that's good.
G.I. Joe, G.I. Jane. General issue. It's your marking. That's why if you speak in tongues, we know you have Ruach HaKodesh. That's why if you know how to stop and present temperance and patience and exude love, we know you have the markings of Ruach HaKodesh. Let me show you why that's important. Come with me back to 1 Corinthians chapter number 12. But the manifestation, Paul says in verse 4, I'm telling you about Ruach HaKodesh. He got a whole bunch of different kind of gifts he can give you. He got a warehouse full of stuff you're going to need. Verse 5, and then there are differences of administrations, which are given to you by Adonai. And then there are the diversity of operations, which administrations and your dress are needed for, because Yahweh commands the movement of this entity. All the jobs work towards the operation from the general. So the operation from the general determines what the colonels, the captains, the privates first class, the drill sergeants, the master sergeants, the corporals, what they do, their jobs. All of them look alike. All of them look alike. If you don't see badges, they all look alike. If you don't see stripes, they all look alike. General issue. Ruach HaKodesh. Jobs will be based on badging, best in infantry, Navy, Army Ranger, Green Beret, but they still general issue, all look alike. They get their needs from Ruach HaKodesh. They get their purpose from Adonai, and then that purpose and those particular needed items go towards the operation of the Father. Now watch. This is where the kingdom comes in. To all of our speakers who have asked to be on platform, here is where we're about to engage you. He says in verse number 10, he says in verse number 8-7, but the manifestation of Ruach HaKodesh is given to every man to profit withal. For to one person is given by Ruach HaKodesh a word of wisdom, general issue. To another is given the word of knowledge by the same Ruach HaKodesh, general issue. Verse 9, to another faith by the same Ruach HaKodesh, general issue. To another, the gift of healings by the same Ruach HaKodesh, general issue. To another, the working of miracles by the same Ruach HaKodesh, general issue. Prophecies, general issue. Discerning of spirits, general issue. To another, the workers' types and different kinds of tongues, general issue. To another, interpretation of tongues, general issue. But all of these general issues, they work by the power of Ruach HaKodesh, who divides to every single man severally as he wills. Why? For as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of that one body, being many, are one. They got to look alike. So also is the body of Messiah. So let me help some of y'all before y'all get too deep. And I need to incorporate. I need to hear y'all talk to me. On your body, is there a hand? Is there a leg? Is there an ear? Is there a mouth? Is there a shoulder blade? Is there a hip? Is there a nose? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Watch the general issue. Does blood flow through them all?
Yes.
Does
Yeah.
vascular system flow through them all? Because it has to for the blood to flow, right? Yes, yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Are they all covered in the same color skin?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Absolutely.
So though they do mods, so it's a lot going on in the background. So though they all have different functions, they all are still under the same skin. That's the uniformity of it. The finger is different. Each of them function different. The ears, the eyes, the nose, the teeth, the mouth, the chest, the pecs, the traps, the quads, the glutes, all of them operate different, but they all got general issue: blood, vascular system, hydration, and skin cover. All that's general issue. Y'all get that?
Sure.
Yes. Yes.
So you are not called the office of verse number 9. If these offices were what you were, if these diversities of gifts are what you were called to do in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, that would mean we would have to label you. Watch this, verse number 8. Ready? We would have to label you Word of Wisdom Jones, or Word of Knowledge Jones,
Okay.
or Faith Jones, or Gift of Healing Jones, or Working of Miracles Jones, or Prophecy Jones, or Discerner of Spirits Jones, or Divers Kind of Tongues Jones, or we ordain you with full authority. Here is your ring. Here is your cross. Put on your collar. You are now officially Interpretation of Tongues Jones. Go and start a church. Y'all didn't find that funny? I found that
it don't work like that. It surely don't.
But that's what we're relegating it to. It don't. But what you do have is what Adonai gave you the job for. That's what your title is. So now, many people, back to Ephesians chapter 4. Come on. I gave you a real quick thing, and it goes deeper. And KYC will tell you how deep it goes, but we're not promoting KYC. We're talking about why we do in the kingdom versus what Yahweh wants done in his kingdom, and why he gave us these offices, these gifts, and these talents so that we can function and create his kingdom in the earth. So Ephesians 4, verse number 8, wherefore when he ascended, he led captivity captive. Verse 9, Ephesians 4:9. Now he that ascended, what is he but he who first ascended or descended into the lower parts of the earth? Verse 10, he that descended, which is Adonai, is also the same that ascended far above all heavens, because he is above all heavens. Adonai is above all heavens, and Yeshua sits in Adonai, right? Verse number 11 says, Adonai gave gifts to all men. All men, every one of you have a gift. You are either a prophet, an evangelist, a pastor, or a teacher. Those are the four that you are born as. The fifth one you matriculate into. That's the apostle. Because once you've understood your three-flange operation, your purpose, your function for why you were called into the earth, you were called into the earth to either be a prophet, to be an evangelist, to be a pastor, or to be a teacher. All of them have different functions. And once you have selflessly done those to help whatever organization that's deficient in either of the offices, and you've done that selflessly until someone who was called to that office actually comes along, that person, because they are able to touch all the offices. Notice when you see my fist on screen, the thumb is the only one that can do this. It touches each office. The ring finger and the middle, it's a little awkward trying to get them to touch each other and work. But if you took this pinky, this ring finger, and properly surgically put it back together, you could make this three-flange entity work over here in this pinky slot, depending on what you could do, because there are three flanges and they have nerve endings. You could make this ring finger, you could switch the ring finger. Technically, you can switch the ring finger and the middle finger and still get functionality and not miss a beat. But you can't switch this one out. Yahweh gave us so many references to the body of Messiah, and we went screaming about it like we understood it, and we never paid attention to it.
Wow.
Fivefold ministry has a real purpose, has a real function. So once you have learned to help. So what the apostle does is, because they've lived all four of these functions, though they lived in the one they were born in, when they found out that the ministry was lacking in the evangelizing and pastoral and teaching, they may have lent themselves for a season to do that very thing. But now that they know who they are, once the person who's designed to be, let's just say the prophet went to help in the teaching department for the ministry, and when the real teacher came along, the prophet had no reason, no issue popping back out of being the teacher and coming back over to be the prophet. Because like, this is what I was built to do. I'm glad I could help until someone came to feel that's really called to do that. And that way you've understood. And then if that same prophet finds out that we need a pastor, either the teacher or the prophet can slip into that pastor role, and someone can be that pastor to help orient the people. Now, here's the differences in what you understand. Once that person's done that, and then of course that pastor can easily go and help to evangelize if there is no evangelical element in the ministry, in the organization, and they can go and do that. Instead, the reason you have these difficulties is because once someone gets ordained a pastor, they leave the church to go start their own church. When in fact, if you are under a pastor, you are a pastor if the pastor who is there, who is not the boss of everybody, if that pastor should die or leave the faith, a pastor can slip right in, and no one has to come out of their bag to be something that they're not, though they're willing to give themselves to move the ministry forward. It's always best that there are 4 or 5 pastors already identified, already qualified to fill the slot. If Yahweh should say, this pastor, like Saul, I don't want him being king no more. I'm going to anoint David. David, you come in and fill the slot. Even Yahweh has in the same kingdom a king ready to fill the slot if the existing king continues to disobey him.
Amen.
Y'all not going to talk to me today, but that's all right. Now, why is this a problem?
Amen.
Why do we have this meeting today? Because these offices, if a person should evolve through them all selflessly for the sake of the ministry and the bond of faith and the unity of the people, then that particular that person becomes what you call an apostle, because they lived in all of these offices for substantial periods of time. Not no, I was a teacher for 6 months. I was a prophet for 12 days. I was a pastor for 2 years. So I've lived all the offices. You ain't lived them. You ain't been through hell yet. When you almost died in them, then you can qualify, right? So that's what the apostle is, because she touches all those offices for real, not no inflated, not no self-propagated or no self-promoted individual. I'm talking about someone who the world can say, hey, yeah, I saw them. They were this, that. Yeah, this is real. That person can touch all those offices and then train all those offices when newbies come into those slots. Do y'all like this teaching?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
This is my mad scientist. This is my mad scientist look. This is when the mad scientist is going on in my head. Now, many people, y'all saw that? Okay. This is the mad scientist look. Okay. Because right now we are cooking up in the lab because we got to get this right. Now, watch this closely. You have had people tell you, because they don't know, and they didn't mean to tell you wrong. They just didn't know. They did what Catholic taught them. They did what Catholicism taught them. They did what your denomination split taught them. If they said you women can't preach, you went and you taught that the way they taught it. You mastered it, and now you think it's gospel. They taught you that speaking in tongues was not of God. You mastered that. They taught you that doing communion is of God, and you mastered that. Whatever they taught you, you did. You didn't know what you didn't know. I'm gonna say it again. You didn't know that you didn't know what you didn't know.
Makes sense.
Now you know. No one can tell you your gift. No different than no one can tell you your dream. Everybody's not qualified just because they got the office of pastor on their door that they can tell you your dream. Interpretation of dream is given to specific people. That's what Corinthians is telling you. Ruach puts that on people, and then he takes it off of people. And certain people have, I wish I didn't have the interpretation of dream. I do. I tell y'all about it all the time. So, ooh, there you go talking about. No, I wish I didn't have it, because it's like, if you tell me a dream, I start to hear it. I'm like, okay, I know what that means. Here's the instruction. And I'm like, why I got to be the one? He's like, why not you? Because you care about my people. I can trust you to tell them the truth and not try to get money out of them because you gave them an interpretation. There is nobody on this planet I have given an interpretation to of tongue and or dream and said, send me $39.95 and I'm going to send this to you back on a CD. No disrespect. I shouldn't have said that because that was too direct about one specific entity. But the point is, you don't sell interpretation. You don't sell the essence of the gift. You give it because it helps the people do their jobs.
Say that.
I did. Nobody caught it, though. Pray that people, the one who asked me to say it again, I want you to pray that people understood that, because I promise you it went over some heads. Now, I want y'all to catch this. When you and I have been told we are, oh, you a prophet, oh, you this, or yo, you that, or yo, you that, no one can tell you your gift. Actually, there is a way to help you see your gift. Because when you see your gift, you know exactly what it is you are to do. That's what our program of KYC does. It helps you to see it through the writ We don't tell you, but we can confirm. Each and every one of you who are part of this ministry and have been interacting with us over time, listening to you for a while, I can tell you what I can identify in my head without telling you out my mouth what your gift is, because I'm not going to tell you. And I'll start directing you that way. And then when we talk and we converse, or we have conferences, or we have sessions, or we have counseling sessions, I'm going to keep you prodded towards what you are. And then if you ever say, Apostle, I need to know my calling. Okay, fine. We'll set up the program for KYC for you. You want to know your calling so you can stop wasting your time trying to figure out who you are and where you're going in the kingdom. And then we can put you through the program, show you the passages. You will read these passages, do your homework in these passages, and then you'll be like, oh, I resonate with that. Oh, I resonate with this. And then at the end of the program, you will be able to sit down and do an identifier of yourself and say, wow, this is who I am. Oh, my goodness. They told me I was a pastor. Turns out I'm a teacher. They told me I was an evangelist. That's why they ordained all the women evangelists. All you women ain't evangelists, missionaries. All you men ain't pastors and bishops. Bishop ain't even a real calling. Bishop don't even exist in the kingdom. I don't care what your Bible said, because you don't know why your Bible got that word in the first place.
Boom.
I said that out loud. Please check me. Who gonna check me, boo?
Wow.
Bishop is not a calling of the kingdom. Sorry.
Say that again.
Bishop describes a function of a calling, which is oversight. And then it's not oversight of oversight. Bishops do not ordain pastors. Pastor Timothy, I, your father in the faith, Apostle Paul, tells you, if anybody in your congregation decides that they want to help you by being an elder sibling in the house when you, pastor, parent Timothy, are out, they desire a good work. And so, Pastor Timothy, that which they're doing is called being a bishop. They want to know their fivefold ministry gift, and they want to help you disseminate the message you're teaching that I've helped you learn to the rest of the masses in their indigenous land. So, pastor, parent Timothy, if someone rises up inside the congregation to be an oversight while you are out, they desire a good thing. That's called a bishop. The pastor Timothy ordains the bishop. The bishop does not ordain the pastor.
That's scripture.
That's in Timothy chapter, go read it.
Yes, sir.
1 Timothy 3.
That's scripture.
And read it right. So what am I talking about? My job in the earth, as many times as I could have been on all these different platforms and networks, I don't name drop what I know and who I know and where I've come from. But here's the catch. I left Christendom and a lot of its construct of propagating because of the error. I just want to make sure we get it right. And some say, well, that ain't your job. Well, as an apostle, my job is to help the prophet be the prophet, evangelist be the evangelist, pastor be the pastor, and teacher be the teacher, because I've been all of them for at least 8 years per office. Check my record. That's why I'm called an apostle. You don't turn 25 and come into ministry and have some prophet tell you, oh, I see the office of apostle and the apostolic all over you, and you're going to be an apostle. You turn 26 and you go get a collar and you go get your jeweler to make you a ring, and all of a sudden you're an apostle. You don't know enough. An apostle is not somebody who goes and starts churches. If an apostle starts a church, he sends a whole hand to go start it, because there's enough in his ministry. He's going to send, when he goes to start a new church, a new outlet, He's going to send a whole teacher, a whole prophet, a whole evangelist, a whole pastor, and a whole teacher, and they're going to set up camp. And he'll come in and check in on it and make sure we're all teaching the same thing. And then they will develop in there. All the pastors are going to start looking for pastors. All the teachers are going to start looking for teachers. All the evangelists are going to start looking for evangelists, and all the prophets are going to start looking for prophets, and they're going to help raise them up. And none of them, once ordained, are going to go start their own church unless they're sent out as a team, because you only send a whole hand to start a church. And some of you have had pastors leading your church, never sanctioning, never understanding, never training, and the pastor is the only one leading the church, and the pastor is not the head of the church. Adonai is. And Adonai sent jobs to be filled, and so many of your organizations and your churches don't have all these offices functioning, and you wonder why the church has no power.
Wow.
Y'all can say that's deep.
Come on.
Or y'all
That
can,
part.
or y'all can turn the TV off. It's your choice. I'm gonna keep teaching it until I die.
Come on, Apostle. That's
And ain't nothing gonna change it. And that's not me being arrogant. It's just I'm in mad scientist mode. And so what I've come to understand, and I got these two great people here that I want to talk to before we get off this platform. Every church, I don't care if you are a rogue church. Yes, I said a rogue church. That means you are outside of a denomination. You're non-denominational, and God called me to do this. First off, I'm asking every pastor, do you really know your calling? Well, I'm a bishop. I can tell you now, you don't know your calling. I'm sorry. I can't tell you how many pastors that are ordained as pastors that don't know their calling. But I'm the pastor. No, you've been put into what we have made as the pastor's seat, which we have said runs the church. But the pastor's job is to feed the flock, not run the church. What? Yep. Let me help y'all. Do y'all remember? Let me show you where we made a big mistake because we didn't study the writ. Remember Peter? And we always say, well, Peter was called a pastor because Peter, the Catholic Church, said Peter was the first pope. That's a lie. Secondly, Peter's the pastor. He the one who started the first church. He was the head of the first church Messiah left on the planet. That also is unfortunately an untruth, because Peter wasn't the head. If there was a head, Pastor Peter wasn't it. Apostle Paul wasn't it, because they were all not apostles. They were apostles. We know them now as apostles, but they were fulfilling their functions. Paul had a particular calling. Peter had a particular calling. Pastor was Peter's calling. Paul had a particular calling, and James had a particular calling, and Matthew had a particular calling, and Mary Magdalene had a particular calling. Mother of Yeshua, Mary all of them were apostles. Here is what happened. When Peter and Paul had their fallout, it was because James, who was considered the head of the organization, was coming to Galatia. And when he got to Galatia, James and the rest that came with him, Peter was like, oh, snap, we out of order, man. We shouldn't be doing what we're doing with these Galatians. And Paul was like, bro, don't do that. Don't do that. Hey, don't flip out like that. Don't you dare flip out like that. You will affect these people we just got converted. And because James is coming, now you want to act like you wasn't eating? Man, sit your butt down. So Peter couldn't have been the leader, could he? Because he was afraid of somebody else.
Yeah, that's true.
Teachers.
I'm trying to. I just want y'all to get this. So when we make these mistakes, we have people, just because you've been titled pastor, because your organization has the office of pastor as leader of your church. The pastor is not the leader of the church. The pastor is the orientator of the doctrine the fivefold ministry has been studying together to teach the people. Acts chapters 3 and 4. And the people of the church Messiah left grew in grace, obtained favor between God, man, and the government, because they led by the doctrine that the apostles taught. So when Messiah died, nobody became the big chief, because fivefold ministry was in effect. They all were the leader. When they had a problem, they called and said, hey, the Hebrew women are getting more than the Grecian women are getting. This ain't fair. Y'all go down and tell the apostles our issue. The apostles heard this one guy come and say, hey, listen, we got a little gripe down here. They're saying that the Hebrews are getting treated better than the Grecians, and the Grecians are converts. They are keeping Torah. And so some are being a little bit, unfair. So they said, listen, it's not for us to tend this table. It's not for us to tend this table. Not one stood up and said, I'll handle it. I'm the super apostle. All right, you do this, you do that, you do the other. They said, no. You guys point out amongst you 7 men who are keeping our teachings. Why was that important? Because our teachings was, in order for them to find the pastor of that church, when Messiah left, it was a church. The pastor of that church gathered every day under a certain tree in a certain area that this man from another region came and found them at. Because they studied here every day. Their job was to get into the word, reason together in the writ, and pray about it. And this way they would all be able to preach the same message from the same pulpit. They could pass the mic to everybody and the message never gets skewed. Nobody ever try to pump themselves up and make themselves over the other, because they studied all week together what they were going to share with the people at the end of the day. I've been trying to get people to do this for the last 20 years. And everybody call me crazy because they say, well, my church, we do this. And well, my church, we do that. That's your problem. It's your church. It ain't his.
That part.
Well, my people ain't going to do that. They're not your people. They're his. Aren't you too his people?
Yes, we are.
Absolutely.
Your job is supposed to promote unity. So my job is I'm trying to get as many pastors and leaders and apostles as I can to come together and study. Let's just forget what we learned in theology school. I trust me, I got a double dose of all theology. I don't know it all, but I got more than the average bear out here, boo-boo. And so when we come together, I want to lay down our theology and open up the writ. What's the writ say? Did my denomination do per the writ? Did your denomination do it per the writ? So did he want this or did he want this denomination? He wanted his word. So how are we going to fix this? Let's us reason together in the writ and find out how to disseminate this amongst our indigenous lands, our indigenous people and our lands we come from. And that cluster, that's the unity that Yahweh wants to see. That's the function of fivefold ministry. Are y'all learning anything today? Y'all still mad at me? I got angry faces on my page. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Very good.
So now here's the catch. And I want these people to testify to this. Pastor Andrea, she's been in ministry for a minute. Are you still with us, Pastor Andrea? Pastor Michael, are you guys still with us?
I'm here.
Okay, good. Pastor Mary, you still with us?
Yes, sir.
All right. Prophet, I know he got business he's trying to get accomplished and done too, but I'm gonna need him in just a second. So Pastor Andrea, when you finally realized, though you were already ordained and sanctioned as a particular calling, share with me your testimony about what it was that you understood once you came into the knowledge and you now know in your heart who you are and what you are, because you saw it, not that Apostle Jones showed it to you or Dr. Stewart showed it to you. But we took you through the writ and you saw it for yourselves. What was it like that moment you realize, oh snap, that's what I am? How has it affected the way you go about serving in the kingdom today?
Well, it freed me up, if that's the right way to say it. I then actually knew what my purpose was and what my function is, which made a big difference. Because previously I was ordained as an elder. We all know now. Well, I know, and funny, I knew then it wasn't right, but I didn't know why.
but I understand now fully. I can verbalize that. But, and I'll be honest and say that when previously, if you had told me that, or not you've told me, I'm just speaking in general, that what was a pastor, I would have dismissed it and refused it simply by my experience and how I saw it operated in the church. And that's no disrespect to any pastor on the platform.
No, none at all.
Leaders,
that's right, none.
But no disrespect.
Mm-hmm.
But it was how we operated in the church in regard to that, and seeing the pastor was like all doing, all seeing, all everything, and not able to function as I know how a pastor should function now.
So in your mindset, so in your mindset, you were taught, and we all were taught, that the pastor was all functioning,
yes,
the head authority in the entirety of the church, and this is the way that he's the king, basically, right? Or she, the king, because I'm not opposed to the calling being given to a gender. You understand? So all of us were given, according to Ephesians 4, the gift of administration, the gift of Adonai to every single human being.
Yes.
So you were under the instruction and the construct that there was, in fact, only the pastor, you know, and that's where all the glory went. Now, I agree that the pastor's job is very interesting, because the pastor's job is to orientate a convert. Can I interrupt for a second? I know I called you up. Let me interrupt for a second. I want everybody to get this. Fivefold Ministry. If you're watching me on Facebook, you're going to see my hand up here. You're going to see the apostle, the prophet, the evangelist, pastor, and teacher. Okay, the thumb, the index finger, the ring finger, the middle finger, the ring finger, and the pinky finger. We all know the ring finger, because if you're on the left hand, if you understand that the ring goes on the ring finger. That's the ring that's glorified, because it has a unique job of keeping the bond of the people around, orientating them to why we gather. Okay, the pastor's job, and I'm going to go in order. The pastor's job is to orientate the convert to the purpose of our existence. Now, look at how this works. So if I got the fivefold ministry, the apostle, he has a specific and a function and a job. His job is to make sure that all that have identified their gifts study together. Because we got a whole different set of evangelists out here teaching and evangelizing whatever they want about the kingdom, whether it's a right doctrine or wrong doctrine, poorly put together doctrine, or some garbage they spoke up to get offerings, because we're told that the evangelists are to be, brought into our churches. The evangelist does not go into a church and teach. An evangelist carries the doctrine that the apostles had beyond the walls, and they take it beyond the walls of your church for those who are not already of the faith. And if someone should say, hey, where can I learn more about that? Because the evangelist, if you're looking online, because the evangelist, if you see how big that finger is, see what I did with my hand, I put that up perpendicular like that. That middle finger for most of you is the biggest, longest finger on your hand. It reaches out the furthest. So when it comes out of prayer and study, it's the one that goes out beyond the walls. Once someone says, hey, I want to know more about what you're evangelizing, the evangelist doesn't go and start a church. The evangelist brings him back to the pastor. He says, okay, pastor, they heard us teaching what we studied. Here is where we're learning this at. The pastor will orientate you. And once that person says, I'm converted, I believe Yeshua lived, died, rose again by the great power of Yahweh, I repent of my sins, I want to know Messiah better, the pastor's job is to orientate that convert. And that's a perpetual function in the gathering, i.e. church, of the people. And we need to stop the Greek element of this, talking about the ecclesia, because the fivefold ministry is the ecclesia. The called out is different. You're talking about one thing. that has just been carrying a narrative as if it's the gospel. The church and the organization is the gathering of people behind the same concept. We serve God, we serve his word, and we come there to learn about his word. Of course, that makes us different from our community, but we take way too far this ecclesia, this ecclesiastical element. And that's the Greek issue that I have with the definitions, because the kohelet is the word from the Hebrew that ecclesia is supposed to mean. I always found it interesting that in the Old Testament side of the Bible, where every other word is Hebrew, you got this one word called Ecclesiastes that defines a book of Solomon, who was straight Hebrew. And what he labeled that book as was kohelet, not ecclesia. So who from the Greek translations took a Hebrew word and changed it in the Hebrew side of the Bible? Something fishy there to me. Now, moving on. When we get into this concept of understanding that when the evangelist goes out and carries the doctrine, everybody preaches, everybody studies, the apostle studies, the pastor, the teacher, the prophet, we all come together, we humble ourselves, we reason together in the writ, we come up, we see what Yahweh is saying. And when you have those witnesses that this is the doctrine, this is proven, this is what Yahweh does say, we can find this in 5 different places. All of them who come out of that study, see how my hand broke out? We broke out of that huddle. It's just like a football team. When you bring a team, basketball, football, volleyball, whatever, golfers, tennis people, when you gather with your coach, you come out of that meeting and you're going to begin to execute what you have just said is our plan going forward. What's true in the natural is first true in the spiritual. So when in fact they come out of that huddle, they come out of that prayer time, they come out of that study time, the first church in the book of Acts, chapters 3, 4, 5, and 6, you will see that they were always gathered together. Anybody who had a problem knew where to find the pastor. And the pastor was a multiplicity. The leader of their organization was a multiplicity of people. And those multiplicity of people became gathered always, and they spoke as one. And I don't think we understand that today in the church, because we're trying to be what we do on this is, we working on this side of the vineyard. Well, it's his vineyard. He still wants it picked and plucked and harvested the same way. Well, I do stuff different than that. That's fine. You're wonderfully and uniquely made. That's great. But we need to be studying together. Otherwise, we're going to end up, not because we're trying to, but we will end up drifting away from his point, making our own points the prevalent and not having it vetted by the word and accountable. So the real accountability for the pastor is the 5-fold unit that should be in your church functioning. Every church should have a prophet. Every church should have an evangelist. Every church should have a pastor. Every church should have a teacher. And guess what? You should have this at least 3 levels down. Every prophet should be trying to identify another prophet, and i.e. every other gift should be trying to identify their gift in other people who don't even know their gift exists without telling them, oh, you're this. No, as they start to get more sincere and earnest about their studies and no longer a novice pressing to be an avid person, then you can say, hey, listen, you need to know what your calling is. And then there needs to be a mechanism inside your church that can help that person gravitate towards what am I actually called to do. I don't just want to be like my pastor, who I like their charisma. I like the way they move the crowd. And that can become very enticing. And people think that that's the office to be, holding the microphone and commanding the room. And you got this aura and all this about you. I've had it all, done it all, lived up to the highest levels of it. Every platform you know of today that you watch on TV, been there, done that. Know everybody personally. But at the end of the day, there's an issue that we can sometimes glorify that as opposed to what's being taught, because now to teach it is a calling based on Christendom. And so the element is that every church needs to have 5-fold ministry functioning. So when the evangelist comes out of the meeting every day with the prophet, evangelist, pastor, and teacher, evangelists carry it out. They bring back the converts and drop them off with the pastor. The pastor orientates them, Just like a job goes hunting, you call them a headhunter. They go hunting for new people to come in and work for the company and say, hey, listen, here's the benefits of our workplace. Here's the benefit plan, the health plan, the insurance plan. Here is your pay scale, how you get increases incrementally, and we got these different options. The headhunter goes and get them, and they drop them back off to HR. HR orientates them to the job, and that extension then takes them to the department manager, and that department manager, pastor, begins to show them what must be done, keeps them up on new regulations, shows them all the new things that are coming down the pike, when it comes down the pike, how to apply it, get them educated, get them trained. So that's the pastor's job. The pastor's job is to orientate the convert. Once the pastor has them orientated and the pastor can see that they are sincere about this, they're going to make this a life calling. They then translate or pass them off to special training. They take them to the teacher. The teacher then foundationalizes them in that particular thing they seem to now know they want to do. And the teacher sets the foundation. Look at my hand and understand this. That teacher is not just the pinky. So you got the evangelist drops them off to the pastor then drops them off to the teacher, and the teacher comes all the way around here. That's that whole thing. And nobody wants to be called a teacher because, well, it's the pastor teacher. There's no such thing as pastor teacher. Stop it. Now, there is an element in Timothy chapter 3, verse 2, where it says that all of these offices must be apt to teach. You understand? So any office has to be able to teach itself to someone who's trying to now accelerate into the purpose and pure calling of that God, that gift in an office. So I got to be able to teach you how to do what you are designed to do, because I've been there. And here's what the writ says. Here's the guideline to that. Now, can that become, sort of kind of controlling? Yeah, people do make mistakes and try to control people with that. And then they make themselves a God, like, you're going to know me. The Bible does says no one becomes greater than their teacher. But the teacher should teach you so you're 3 times greater than them. That's why they'll always honor you as their teacher. If they can see that if it wasn't for you pointing out these things and showing me this resource, I would not have been able to open this vast stuff to myself and become 3 times greater than you. They will always give homage back to their foundation. And if they should ever fall from any height they have gone to, they will only fall back down as far as you. They won't let other people hype them up and push them up so high up this totem pole that when they fall 30 feet to their death. They will be just 3 times greater than you. And when they fall, they have you to fall back on. You're going to be like a parent. You're never going to turn them away. You're going to build them back up. You're going to actually go to bat for them. You're going to let the world know that they messed up. And if they messed up, they've been accountable. They're accountable to you. You're teaching them. You're the one who helped them, got them to where they are. And this is what we're missing in the church who claims to be the kingdom. The kingdom does not kill its own. It does not shoot its wounded. And we have found ourselves doing that because people are being elevated because someone gave them a verbal external gift, put a title and an ordination and a cross and a ring on their finger, and sent them to an outlet of their establishment and said, go rule. And then they get out there and get twisted in their function because they didn't really get it. And then people start saying, oh, I love my pastor. I love my pastor. I love my church. I love my pastor. I love my church. I love my church. I love my pastor. And now that they're up high, they get all the way up here on this podium that people have hyped them up on. And when they become human for 30 seconds and fail, now all of a sudden, oh, you let me down, pastor. And they let that pastor fall like Humpty Dumpty off the wall. And all the king's horses and all the king's men could never put Humpty back together again. And now the church is decimated. Oh, the kingdom of God has another black eye. Oh, we're making the kingdom look bad. No, we didn't. We just didn't train them. We don't know what we're doing. And we who are in leadership need to sit down before we send anybody out, make sure that they are trained. And some of us who are sitting in authority need to humble ourselves to know that we may have been put forward in an office with very good hearts. But we ourselves didn't know what we knew, because I know I cried many a night wondering, Yahweh, what the heck am I doing? Who am I? What am I doing? I cried because I don't want to lead people astray. And then when all of this stuff came to be many, many, many years ago, he gave me the course to help people understand, here is your calling. Operate in that. And once you start operating in that, you don't operate based on an actual external gift or title that a group and an organization gives you, but you actually can operate in your calling where the Father can actually say, well done, my good and faithful servant, because you actually know that I made you a prophet, evangelist, a pastor, or a teacher, and you operated in that. And when you were needed to help out in other offices, you willingly, selflessly did that so that I could raise up, you could help raise up whoever was actually supposed to be in that office, and then you rubber band back over to your post, and you supported each other. So when we understand the function of fivefold ministry in what we call Christendom or the world at large, we begin to function rightly. Now, remember, guys, we're going to have monologue, and I don't mind this monologue at all today. So please invite microphones down to anybody who's in the room, anybody who's in the space. And please, if you're in the space in our VIP sections, please take your microphone. We'll give space and opportunity for everybody to chat. We don't argue and fight here. This is just what we know and we believe. If you got a question, place it right. Don't come at me for no garbage, but make sure you ask your question, and we will give you what we understand biblically, not from all the commentary that we have in theology and seminary. Been there, done all that. What does the word say? So when we look now at everything that this fivefold ministry does. Now watch this. So what does this mean? When we put the hand together, those of you watching on Facebook, you see my hand, you see how it's balled up. That's the unity of the body. In that Yahweh commands a blessing, even life evermore. When we come out of our studies, we then go out. The evangelist goes out, does his thing. The pastor is waiting for those converts to come to orient them to the program for why we're here. Then he passes those on who seem serious and are definitely ready to do it. And he translates them over to the teacher. The teacher foundationalizes them, really gets them rooted and solid and rocked into all things, them mods. And then he gets them rocked into everything that they're supposed to be doing. Moderators, he gets them rocked into everything they're supposed to do. And then guess what? That leaves the prophet. We're still looking for what the prophet does. Well, while they're down here in this time of study, the pastor who is responsible for coming up with conversation pieces, coming up with new ways of integrating the things of Elohim, making it easy, like a teacher of sorts, like a classroom teacher, right? He, the teacher, and the evangelist, they're deep in the word. The prophet is deep in the word, because the prophet is one who literally sits down and stays in the word. He's like the monk of the group, right? He don't talk a lot. The prophets do not, by office of Elohim, go out and prophesy houses, spouses, and cars to people. They admonish the people to know his word. The prophets of old only propagated Torah, and the people who wanted their own conveniences killed them, because they said, you can't have that convenience. We can so. You can't. We can't kill him. I don't want to hear that no more. Okay, so now the prophet's dead. That's why Yahweh was like, you have killed my prophets all the day long, and I still stretch my hand out toward you, stiff-necked, hard-headed, and disobedient people. All the prophets ever did was propagated Torah. You had one goofy prophet named Jonah. You know what Jonah said was, I don't like them people. Why I got to go tell them your truth? Yahweh was like, boy, get over there. But the point is, that's what the prophet's job was to do. Their job was to make sure you remembered what the word of Elohim, the instructions of his government, were about. Do not get caught conveniencing them. Do not get caught watering them down. Live by this. We won't have problems. So that's what fivefold ministry does. Now, this prophet stays in that word. This prophet stays literally in that word so much that they are almost like in prayer constantly with the Father. So when they come to the study with the teacher, and the teachers are deep, the teachers know the word. They get in there, they dig it out, the Greek, the Hebrew, the Aramaic, they find out what Yahweh meant, they break down the letters, they do the whole thing. And the pastors are just as deep. The evangelists are just as deep, right? Any one of them can be in the office of orienting somebody or in the office of foundationalizing someone. But here's the catch. When they all come out of that study, that the apostle also sits in and oversees, and he's not the boss of anybody. He's just in there making sure we stay focused. You know, when you talk about a steering committee, nobody's really the boss of it, but someone has to sort of kind of, set the tempo and set the tempo, but we keep you focused, because I am no greater than you. You are no greater than me. And my job is to see and esteem you highly. So when I see you and I esteem you highly, then I'm going to say, hey, you listen, let's get you up here greater, because you got a unique way of delivering that. This is where I need you to be. You got a real good way of breaking that down. Hey, evangelist, teacher, can you get to them? Hey, can you break that down some more and set this up, and we'll get together and study some more. And now when we all come out of that huddle, we break out of that huddle, we know what we're doing. Now, when we break out, here's the catch. While we're studying together, someone will be like, you know what? Yahweh is giving me a unction to go this way with it. The thing we came out of this meeting with, the revelation, the doctrinal message we came out of this meeting with, which we all agree on because we all have it vetted by 2 or 3 witnesses or 4 or 5 witnesses of the writ. We can confirm this is true. And then we say, well, I sense he wants us to go this way. That prophet will usually be the one who confirms that direction. That's why if you look at it, watch, see my hand? The apostles got it covered. Now watch this. If you're not on Facebook, you're not going to see this, but imagine this in your head. Close your fist, put your thumb over it. Your thumb should be touching your teacher finger, which is your ring finger, right? But when the first finger that can wiggle out of this, the easiest is the index finger, the pointer finger. It points the way that the whole hand should be going. The prophet don't go his own way and then tell everybody else I'll be back. The prophet points the way that the whole group should be going. So prophets, that the office of the prophet, not the office of not the gift of prophecy. The office of the prophet is to point the direction for the nation. He doesn't go from city to city preaching. That's not his job. His job is to stay around those who are actually doing the preaching, though they can preach, but they're preaching the same message the preacher, the pastor, the teacher, the evangelist is teaching, and they're there to support that, bring that to fruition, and then remind the people what was preached. Oh my goodness, what we've been doing. You don't bring the prophet into the main arena in the city and say, hey, y'all, we're going to be prophesying life. There's a spirit of prophecy. That's Ruach HaKodesh, the general issue. And then there's an office of prophet. If you are a prophet, hear you the prophet, so shall you prosper. Yes, you will, because the prophet's reminding you of the lesson that convicted you. When you stay to the conviction of the letter, then those things that are connected to your obedience, Deuteronomy 28, verses 1 through 14, they manifest. If you deviate, then Deuteronomy 28, 15 through 66, demonstrate. The prophets are there to say, hey, remember the word. Remember the word. The prophet's not there to say, I declare you're going to get a car. I declare you're going to get a house. I declare you're going to get a brand new spouse. Look behind door number 2. Just drop off $69.75 my Cash App and know that God is with you. So the prophet's job is to remind the nation, guys, we've gone left of his righteousness. And the apostle is to make sure that everybody is staying focused in the word. The apostle doesn't go and establish physical churches. They go to churches converted to establish the literal order of the word, so that the pastors and the evangelists and the teachers in those set outlets are teaching the same gospel, sharing and learning the same way in the writ, so that nobody is preaching something that is out of kilter with the intentions of the Father. I so am working on school to make sure that we get, if we're going to call it seminary, I don't even know if we're going to call it seminary, but we do know in the Sought Out Kingdom Ministries that we need to be teaching what his word teaches and not the 5 pillars of, quote unquote, salvation, 16 steps to pray and reach God, 9 steps on how to get prosperity in your life. That's commentary. We need to teach the edict. That's what fivefold ministry is designed to do. So here's where we have a problem. So now if you get somebody that rises up in your church ministry and all of a sudden someone prophesied, or not even prophesied, or someone just said, you know what, I see the office of this on you. That may be true. Shut your mouth. The spirit of prophecy is subject to the prophet. Catch that in the spirit. Now, when we begin to operate like this, you don't tell a person their calling. You help them to begin to see their calling themselves, because the moment you tell them, they can come back and say, you pushed me down here, and they can do it in a way that is sort of kind of, I'm going to do it because you said to do it. Let them see it, because they're doing it naturally the moment they wake up out of their bed. The moment they go to work, they go to school, they go to the gym, they play ball, they coach, they work on their teams at jobs, on their jobs. They're doing it automatically. Your gifting, your fivefold ministry gifting is so evident. There's a way biblically to show it to you. So we have KYC. We're not advertising KYC, but we're talking about how the kingdom and the church got to get back realigned to the intentions of the Father. Are y'all learning anything, or am I just blabbing off the top of my head?
We're learning.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we learned.
Good word.
Good. Really
So another person I thought was really good at this was a pastor that I've met, and he and his wonderful wife were pastoring church, and I want to get them opportunity to share real quick on platform. And guys, understand that we're just really just touching the surface of this stuff. Just touching the surface of it. So if you got questions, please contact me. Don't ask my neighbor. Come to me. Don't be afraid. Just come to me. Don't ask my neighbor. I'll tell you what I said, and I'll share with you how we got there. Because right now you're getting pieces of the whole of what we can teach you on this. So if you got a question, inbox me, back channel me. The mods, they're there. You can just tell them, how do I get in touch with Apostle? I'll make sure we get a chance to talk to you, and bring your pastor, bring your leader. I want us to be unified. I don't want to be talking at you and drawing you from your church. No, you need to be teaching over there what you guys have learned and or are learning and maybe have been convicted to. And that's another thing. The church is competing with each other. Baptist competing with Methodist, and inside of that, you got one Baptist church competing with the next Baptist church, or the what do we call ourselves? What do we call them? The non-denominationals. You're competing for people. Stop it. These ain't your people. My job is to make sure anybody I meet has a better relationship with the Father. I don't care where you go home and live. I care that when I encounter you and you encounter me, your faith is now quickened to his truth. Pastor Michael, how has things changed in your ministry since you and your wife have learned your actual calling?
Well, shalom to everyone. It's interesting because I guess I have to start with saying, even before I took the class, I was preconceived in my mind. I think I heard the pastor earlier say, I'm not built for this. I know I'm not this. So my direction has to be this. And even though I was an ordained licensed pastor.
Even though you were a licensed and ordained office of pastor. Okay, go ahead.
Right. Even though licensed and ordained, it's so much. So I think the most intriguing part of this was to learn that what I had in mind and what Yahweh had planned for me was totally different.
Okay.
But I'm gonna do something that I know my wife ain't gonna like, because I think her experience is different than mine, but better. So Ms. Roche,
are you there, bro? Pastor?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay, I don't understand what's happening. You stopped talking. What you got?
Oh! I was allowing Pastor Mary to come in.
All right, well, let me lead y'all into this. When you first started, and this is not, we are not selling. This is not a sale for Know Your Calling coursing. We have that already. We've been doing this for over 20 years. And we've helped so many more people to understand their gifting and their calling, even as ordained bishops, ordained pastors for years, running churches. Now that they know their real calling, they're better at their job because it helps them understand, as it were, what it is I'm supposed to do. And you don't get caught up in a whole bunch of other stuff that's not your job. Because, you know, we do way too much in Christendom. We do what we thought we should do because we don't know what to do, but we want to do good. We don't mean to be wrong. It's just we didn't understand what we were supposed to do. We didn't understand the assignment, right? So Pastor Michael, and the reason I wanted to have him on was because he and his wife, they were a beautiful story for me. Someone I can get to quickly. I can get to a whole bunch of other people, but I like these two people today for this because I love them. But here's the catch. Pastor Michael he's ordained pastor. Now, after he came through the course, he actually fought with the fact that something his wife knew, she don't know how to talk to him because she honors her husband, right? She's like Rebecca to Isaac. Like, I can't really tell him. I don't want him to snap or think I'm being disregarding or I don't support him or I'm trying to tell him what to do. I'm not trying to be the boss of him. But she's like, you know, they come to the course and they're going through the homework and they're doing the homework together, right? So when they do the homework, you know, he's like, okay, I'm resonating with this. And then when the course is over, we share with him and watch this. In our coursing, we're not selling KYC, y'all. We're not looking for that. We're just sharing with y'all. This are the results of KYC. So he's coming out. What you do in KYC is at the end of KYC, you have to actually do a character study of yourself, having done several character studies of the writ. And then you do your own character study. And then you have to identify what your character represents by virtue of the job descriptions of the fivefold ministry. And your mouth becomes a snitch. What you write on that paper tells you who you are. And sometimes it's against, because you're trying to say you're this, but what you write, the way you write it, the narratives, the adjectives that come along with it, tell you who you are. You're like, oh, shoot, I wrote that. Pastor Michael, what was your experience?
Well, to be honest, I wouldn't say I fought it. Oh, yes, I did.
Yes, you did. I'll be honest.
Okay,
I'll call the whole class up here. Go ahead. What you got?
No, sir. Go ahead.
So you fought that when you found out, and then it took your wife to actually stand up and say, baby, Pastor Mary Roach.
Yeah, she
always right.
Yeah.
That part.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the end of the day, you thought you were one thing. And though you are the pastor of the church, your calling, the reason it was difficult to pastor, would you say was because you were trying to do the commercialized?
Well, it was a struggle and a journey because I was trying to do what I saw. But what KYC showed me was what I actually do, because there were times that I actually, you know, talk to the people and reveal things and direct, like you say, like a prophet does. But I thought it was strange because that's not what pastors do.
So you're actually fighting against the organic of yourself, trying to be the image that was being said. This is what pastors do, based on this Christian construct.
Right. Correct. And it was a struggle because I didn't. It's not that I didn't understand it. It's just I kept questioning it.
Why do you keep deviating? Why do you keep gravitating to this type of a flow? You know, this is just not and then you're struggling to get back to being the pastor's job description of Christendom. And then we come to find out that, you know, people are told that, well, you know, not everybody can lead. Every single solitary one of you are able-bodied servants of Elohim. You being the person who sits in front of the microphone and is the quote unquote senior pastor, and now you got these things, chief apostles. Y'all need to know those are not offices.
Right.
Thank you.
There is no such thing as a chief. There is a chief apostle, and that's Messiah. End of discussion.
Awesome.
If there's a master prophet, it's because you who was trained under that person sees them as a master of sorts, a resident theologian or what have you, because this whole thing of making, I'm the master prophet, you know, I'm the master this. No, you stop, sit down, humble yourself. I can't stand it. It irritates me to no end. It does. It grieves my soul because to each and every one of us has been given one of these gifts. Every one of us is one of these gifts. What level and stage we've matured into based on our novice or avid approach of study concerning the matter, the subject matter, the content of the kingdom determines what that looks like, determines how we operate, and we are now received. And you ain't got to tell nobody what you are. When you speak and the authenticity of you comes out, they're going to know that you are authentically a heathen or you are authentically of Elohim. You ain't got to tell you ain't got to, I'm the right reverend, the prelate, the magnificent, the reverend doctor, overseer, prelate, magnificent, your grace and eminence, call me by my title. You ain't got to do all that. When you walk and you talking, when I come into arenas and situations, when I speak what I know, what comes out of me, because I want the kingdom propagated, they're like, oh, hey, you seem to know something. And there's a well to draw from. You ain't gotta give yourself a title. Your calling comes out of you. And you ain't gotta speak loud and hard and harsh and, oh God, just because you speak loud don't make you right. Just because you are antagonist doesn't make you right. It means that there needs to be reasoning somewhere. So, because if the truth, when truth is truth, you ain't gotta fight for truth. You don't have to defend truth. You don't have to debate truth. And this is where the church makes its mistake. Though trying to be good, it's not your job to save people. It's your job to save yourself. And when you are saved, people looking for salvation can wrap onto you and you can pull them to safety, help them get on their feet, and someone else will see their confidence in their salvation, latch on to them, and the cycle keeps going. It's like that old Pantene commercial from 1970s, and they'll tell two friends, and so on, and so on. And now you got to master people who understand salvation. Your job is not to save people. Your job is to save yourself. And when someone wants to be saved, be ready with an answer of a surety that cannot be shaken. And we can't do that because we're trying to be a prophet. You got people practicing, come on, we're going to teach you how to be a prophet. You can't teach a person kingdom-wise how to be anything unless there is something that you're getting out of it. And you're not teaching them kingdom, you're teaching them a separate external construct. You're teaching them something that you have said works. And we all can fall into that subjective category in place, right? Don't misunderstand that, because I got to check myself every day. I go back over everything I know and say, is this in your writ? And I get others to make this accountable. So we can all say, yes, it's right there, 3 or 4 witnesses. And that's how something is received. When you walk around talking about, we're going to teach you how to be a prophet, you can't do that. A prophet is a prophet. Let me tell you what you don't know. Samuel, who was the last reigning judge in Israel, was given the issue to actually select a king because the people wanted a king over the people. They said, give us a king like other nations. We don't want the theocracy that Elohim has for us, the theocracy that Elohim has for us. We don't longer want the way it was shaped up when Moshe was there. Okay, so Samuel, when you die, you pass the judgeship on to your sons. We're going to kill them jokers because they wicked, they crooked, they take bribes, and they freaky. Okay, we don't like them. We don't. So you the last one, we know that's authentic and true. So what we've decided is, oh, Samuel, bring us a king like other nations. Samuel went crying to Yahweh, and Yahweh's like, son, why are you tripping? I told you, I prophesied to you that they're going to do this anyway. Did you forget? Oh, my bad. They're not rejecting you, Samuel. They're rejecting me. And they doing you a solid because they're telling you they're going to kill your sons once you're dead. Okay, get a grip, boy. So Samuel then goes back to the people with a job description from the father about the king. Yahweh tells Samuel, you go select the king. You're going to see such and so come through. He goes and he selects a person. You know what he selects this person from? You know what makes this real easy for him? Because Samuel selects another person who has typically what the judges have been over the years. Most of the judges in Israel, study your writ before you come for me. Most of them were prophets. Moshe was a prophet. Joshua was the minister of Moshe, a prophet. Samuel was a prophet. Elihu was a prophet. All of these people that took on the judgment seat, the kingship of Israel, the theocracy leadership before they went to the king of other nations, they were primarily prophets. That's why Saul, it was a shock to the people. Is Saul a prophet? Saul didn't just prophesy by the gift of the Holy Spirit. Saul was a prophet. That was his calling. This was extracted from him once this anointing to be a king was put on him. So Samuel selected another prophet because he knew how to help train that type of person up. That's your school of prophets. You can't just pull somebody out the crowd and say, oh, I want to train you up to be a prophet. Stop. You're born one of those four elements. Prophet, evangelist, pastor, or teacher. You're born one of them. And then you still have to be nurtured. Even the Apostle Paul tells Timothy, hey, look, if they desire this office, you got to train them up. You're going to take about 3 years to train them up. How do we know that? Oh, because there was two things that took place. The first thing was Old Testament. The second thing was New Testament. Watch. When the apostles, or rather when the rabbis would come through with any child in Bet Midrash and Bet Sephar. Bet Sephar was the school of early beginnings, and Bet Midrash was the school of middle school age, right? Once they graduated that, they should be 12. That's when they would have their bar mitzvah, their bat mitzvah. Now you've gone into adulthood. A Levite or a rabbi would take one of those students or those students and then take 3 years to try and work with them to see what it is that they can do to benefit the kingdom of Israel, because Israel was one. And if they said this person doesn't have the aptitude or the capabilities to do this, they're not ready, mature enough for this, they send them back to finish their father's and mother's business in the earth, right? So that would take 3 years. That's when the rabbis would determine this person is going to go forward in this kind of training, or this person is going to go back to their family business, or whatever. It was 3 years that the rabbis had to deal with the basically higher education of that region. So y'all understand schooling the right way. Now, when Messiah comes on the scene, right, he too does what the rabbis do. He handpicked 12 men who have come through Bet Sephar, Bet Midrash, and they came through the rabbinical teachings, which then rendered them back down to their family businesses, accounting, fishermen, whatever it was, right? So when Messiah picks these men, they've already been through that. And guess how long he keeps them before he dies? 3 years. He's training them. This is your master class. There's your master class, and they ain't have to pay for it. Well, they did, because they paid not money. That's the master class. Yeshua sat with them for 3 years and trained them up and helped them understand their calling. So Timothy was telling, wow. Paul was telling Timothy, you never thought about that. Timothy was teaching Paul was teaching Timothy that, listen, if they desire the office of the bishop, which is, again, properly understood as someone willing to help you disseminate the message to the rest of the people, they are giving oversight. They're acting like elder brothers. So if they would ever do this and they would begin to put this in process, he says, take them through the office of the deaconate. Now, many of you are going to think, okay, well, he said bishop and then he said deacon, should be likewise trained in the same way, should be sober, vigilant, not giving the filthy lucre, not a brawler, all that stuff. He was telling them, he did this redundantly. The offices are not different. The deaconate is not something different. The actual elder would be trained up by the pastor, and then they would begin to show them what your calling is. Now, once they say, oh, I see my calling, now let's put them in the office of the deacon, as we say in the Greek, because there's another word for that. I'm not going to get into that because that starts me a whole other conversation. Put them in the office of the deacon, watch this, to prove their trustworthiness. Guess how long that process was, y'all? 3 years. After 3 years, you're either moved into your fivefold ministry functionality or you're put back through the course. To be a deacon for 25 years means you are constantly failing the process. That's like being held back in middle school for 10 years. I've been a deacon for 25 years. You proud about that? So, and this, the reason it's funny, because they don't know. We have a construct that teaches it, and as Pastor Spencer puts it, repurposed it. So when we look at the deaconia, it is actually a training ground for those who are identifying their gift. And then you're to train them to see if they are going to be consistent. They are put then to the work, the ministry, to carry out, help aid in the ministry and learn their own gift and be elevated to that gift. Once they get graduation from the deaconate and they get their ordination by their organization, doesn't mean they go out and start their own little church. It means you're there to make this church an easier running function. And if anybody should go down, you got an instant replacement. Everybody already knows that person. Everybody already understands their vibe. They know that they're working the will of the Elohim and they're a part of the union. And this is where we've made our mistake. And this is where we got to sort of kind of understand what the kingdom wants of us rather than what we have put together as our own church function now. Now, everybody, please, I don't fight this because I've been running churches for, I got too many churches, and I'm realizing how it was before when we were ordaining people and how it is now that we're ordaining people. There's a whole different flow. People now are getting ordained as prophet, evangelist, pastor, or teacher, and they're like, cool, train me up. How can I help? And therefore, you have multiple pastors that are in the ministry. Not that because we think like Pastor Mike was saying that the pastor is the head, or like Pastor Andrea was saying, the pastor is the head, or the glorified element. No, the fivefold ministry is the leadership of the church. And we don't have whole fivefold ministry. We around here propagating and talking about it, preaching it. I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other. You, I means you're separate. If he uses me in the office, as it were, of what I am, and because we got a KYC class coming up, I can't tell y'all what my calling is. And KYC, if y'all know, you better not say nothing because we got a class coming through. Whatever office I am organically, forget what I'm matriculated into. Organically, what I am, I do it every day. I do it every day. I do it with my children. I do it with my co-laborers. I do it with strangers. I do it with my musicians. I do it with our leaderships. I do it on the basketball court. I do it wherever I'm at. It's just what I do every day. It eats out of me. That's what I am. That's what I do. So now when I have done that and I do that, and we're together, I'm looking for people who are like me to train them up in that so they can become who they are. It's just what we do. It's who you are. You don't have to go and make this a job description like trying to become an accountant or trying to become an electrician. That's an external title that gives you a particular benefit. When you learn how to do that, you become an authority in that, in absolutism, and then you can get paid to do that. Your fivefold ministry gift is completely different. I don't do what I do today because of money. I do what I do today because of the lifestyle. This is what I am. This is who I am. My job is to make sure you know what you are, so therefore you can be who you are. And from there, as your soul prospers, so shall you prosper. Do you learn other skills like being an electrician? Do you learn other skills like being a political scientist? Do you learn other skills like being, whatever these new degrees are, a scientist or whatever? Wonderful, go for that, but that's not who you are. Those are attributes that can aid you and provide for you, but what you are and who you are for the kingdom, that's the first thing you need to know. And we within the church, you know, we're so eager to do something good, and we want to be good. We want to do good. We want to talk right. We want to be right. But at the end of the day, we go too far. At the end of the day, we don't understand that Yahweh gave us through Adonai a job before he sent us in the earth. He would be a very non-orderly creator if he sent us into earth without the purpose for why we're to be in the earth. Problem is, once we get in the earth as a soul, we get wrapped in this flesh, which gives us a whole lot of distractions, and we then have to find our way back to purpose, because this flesh is going to lead us to do a whole bunch of stuff that all of us have gotten ourselves into, lost our direction, followed whatever it said, got ourselves in trouble, so deep into the muck and mire, we don't even think we're usable of Elohim. Like the Apostle Paul, "Oh, wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death?" Get my soul back in touch with the Father. And even if I get my soul back in touch with the Father, back in touch with the Creator, and I start trying to fulfill what he has asked of me to do in this earthen realm, I still, from time to time, lose my way. How do we fix that? Because you're always going to struggle. The issue here is make sure you know your calling. And there is a real biblical way for you to know your calling. My point was the deacons were trained for 3 years. Then they were given their calling, and they functioned inside the ministry to help the converts that were coming in. There was never a thing about trying to be the biggest church on the other side of town. The thing I love about the Bible that I think we miss. I know I'm boring many of you because we're losing a lot of you on our broadcast feeds. The thing I love about what we missed in the Bible, and I said this on purpose, we missed it, is that the first church that Yahweh gave to Moshe was 3.2 million people. I'm going to say it again. The first church that Yahweh gave to Moshe, the first church of the kingdom, if you want to call it that, they were for real under the edict of Yahweh, the Torah. They were 3.2 million people that came to one church. And it was a real small little storefront. It was not storefront. It was a real small one. They could pack it up and put it in a chest and carry it. I'm going to say it again. I don't think y'all caught that. The very first church of Yahweh or Elohim was 3.2 million people, and it had 635 pastors.
My God. Wow.
And they all operated out of one little small place called the Tabernacle. Let that sink in. 635 Levites, and not all of them were pastors by gift. And not, it wasn't, you didn't have a gift because you were a Levite. Was Joshua a Levite? Was Samuel a Levite? Was Saul a Levite? Was David a Levite? Samuel's office was a prophet. That was his calling. David's office, I'm not going to tell you that either because we in KYC. Moshe's office.
KYC.
Yeah, KYC. Don't y'all do it. Listen, they were not Levites. Aaron was a Levite. Moshe was a Levite, but Samuel wasn't a Levite. Watch this. David wasn't a Levite, but he still had a fivefold ministry gift inside of him. And we can show you how to see that. So it wasn't a matter of being a Levite, but those Levites were the leadership of the tabernacle. And the tabernacle's one job was to carry the order of the instructions of the Torah and remind the people of it. When they sinned, here's what you got to do. When the feast came, here's what you got to do. That's the orientation part. That's how the function of the pastorate, as it were, should work. But then there were teachers within that solidified you and made you read the Torah. Then there were, in that same group, there were those who evangelized and carried it out beyond the walls. Then there were the prophets who really became like monks about understanding it, getting in their soul, staying in front of the word almost every day, all day. And then in Shabbat, even the more. And they were able to get a real vibe for where Yahweh was trying to direct them to go. And there you have the issue of the cloud moving by day and the fire by night. But we don't want to get into that. That's a whole nother conversation. So when we start talking about fivefold ministry in the kingdom, let's make sure we have and understand our callings. So how is it that they can have 635 bona fide leaders, each one who can, let me give you another example. I'm gonna leave this alone. Watch this closely. Do y'all remember when Yahweh appointed the first head pastor of the church? Let me tell you who it was. It was Aaron. Aaron was a Levite. But how did he elect Aaron as the Gadol Kohanim? He already gave out what needed to be given out. He told Aaron that you and the Levites are going to be over the things of the tabernacle. But then he said, I need a leader, I need the high Gadol, I need the Gadol Kohanim, I need the high priest. And so he says, Moshe, so the people don't think you are being what's it called? What's it called when you inside the family? Nepotism. So don't think that you're being and operating in nepotism. Moshe, I want you to call all the tribes together. Call all 12 tribes. Levi was one of the tribes, and Aaron was the head of that particular tribe because Moshe was the judge. So they brought Gad, Asher, Issachar, Naphtali, Benjamin. They brought Reuben, Simeon. They brought all the tribes' leaders out, brought their staffs out, their Bibles out, and laid those staffs representing each 12 tribes. Now, were all those tribes Levi?
No, sir.
No.
This is going to mess up some of your theology. All those tribes were not Levi. Only Aaron was the representative of the Levi tribe, and he had the rod and the staff for the Levites. Simeon, Gad, Naphtali, Asher, Issachar, all of them, they brought theirs down, and they put them in the tabernacle of the saints. And Yahweh said, the one that I cause to bud, the one that I will cause to bud overnight and bear fruit, that will be the one I want to be the Gadol Kohanim. So here's my point before you get caught up in the budding of the rod. That rod happened to be the tribe of Levi because Yahweh picked Aaron to be the high priest. But all the other tribes were qualified to be the high priest. Yahweh picked the one he wanted. The others were qualified. So what I'm trying to tell you is that because we see Levi, and we all around here talking about starting ministries up, talking about the Levitical tribe, we are no longer under Levitical order. We are under the tribes in the order, the order of Messiah, the same order that Yahweh called Yeshua after the same order of Melchizedek, after the order of Melchizedek, which was like the tribe he get, because Melchizedek also sanctioned Levi. That's what happened when Melchizedek met Abraham. He sanctioned Levi in the womb, in the loins, to be the high priest later. So when Levi is no longer the priest, we now have a new high priest who is not of Levi. He is of Uda. He is Yeshua HaMashiach of the tribe of Uda, not Levi. So you and I are not under that. So that means that it doesn't mean that because you're under a certain, family line that you become the priest, you become the high priest, or you become a prophet. Because my dad's a prophet don't mean I'm gonna be a prophet. Because my mom's an evangelist don't mean I'm going to be an evangelist. Because my whatever. That don't work that way. Yahweh puts on each human a gift when he sends them into the earth. That's your purpose. That's what we need to start focusing on, getting in our hearing, getting in our understanding, so that we can operate better instead of trying to be like prophet so-and-so and be like bishop so-and-so and be like pastor so-and-so because they have celebrity status. And most of us get ourselves in trouble because we start doing ministry thinking that it is a good business opportunity. So you're about the business opportunity and you're not about the business of the Father. I think I just got in trouble again. Okay, I think I talked too much. Y'all got real quiet and the room has gone dead.
You're good, Apostle. We're learning.
I hope
Yes.
that it's not
Yes.
offended. I hope that it has helped to give just a little bit of insight. I know we're going to get a lot of flack back about it. Those who we admire, we adore, and we honor as well in this room. I'm hoping that I can't see who all's here. I'm just actually looking over the stuff, and I see this, I see that. I don't know who else is here. So listen, I just want to make sure we all understand this and we start walking in what we know to be a truth of His word. The construct that I just attacked. People will say, you attacked the church. I did not. I want to impact the church. I don't want you to go leaving your church. If you make effort to operate rightly and then they kick you out, oh, well, that's one thing. And you don't go in there browbeating, talking about y'all doing it wrong. You're pastors and prophets. You're not supposed to be doing that. You know, then you're not doing it right. You sit your butt down because you ain't helping the case. The best way to get this message across is when people ask you questions. You just best have a resourcing system that can give them the appropriate answer. And it won't be about you. It'll be about the answer. So when you get with people teaching this in the way that we're teaching it and sharing it in the way we're sharing it, you can then understand that Elohim is what you're propagating, not your own name. Not your own, trying to create your own circuit of teaching and preaching. That's where we're making the mistake. Let's get back to teaching what the writ says we should do. When you get there, I promise you, the business of the ministry is a real thing. You have to do this. The business of the ministry is a real thing. But the business we have to deal with and be accountable for needs to be stemmed from being about the Father's business. Many people I know for a fact have gotten ordained, and whatever the bishop says do, they do. Whatever the apostle says do, they do. Whatever the prophet says do, they do. That is not what Yahweh wants. Now, that does not mean you do not obey them who have rule over you in Yahweh. The issue is, they're not giving you instructions of Yahweh. Let that sink in. If it doesn't match His writ, you don't do it. Even the military. I gave y'all the example of the army, right? Yes or no? I'm gonna stop with this. Did I give y'all the example of the army to start?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 3 people got that. Listen. In the military, their code of induction, when they get inducted, they are given this oath to make. In that oath of office, the military, no matter what level, no matter what grade, is that they will obey whatever superior, as long as they're giving an instruction that comes from the code of conduct and the code of their purpose. They can reject an order if it fails to match the code. Some of y'all in the military know that, and some of y'all in the military don't. And I'm not telling you to be rogue and go against your authority. No, if it don't match the writ, you don't have to. Pastor, prophet, here's 2 or 3 witnesses that say that instruction. Could you please look at that again and tell me before I do this? I want to honor you because you're set. Yahweh selected you to do this, and I'm here to serve. I want to help any way I can. But to do Christmas don't match up with the writ. See, because in in Jeremiah, it says, don't bring a tree from the forest and nail it up and put it with tinsel and gold and silver and bring it into the house. He said, don't do it. And you want me to go get a Christmas tree? It's right here. So before I'm having a problem. Can you reconcile this for me, please? I'm not trying to be deep. You're just being disobedient. No, I promise you, I want to do what Yahweh wants, but I know. Can you reconcile that for me? Because I just can't go further until that's reconciled. That's where people will tell you, don't listen to that man. He stirs up trouble. And that's not the intention. We need to be together. We need to understand. That's why we need to study together. That's why all the pastors, I try to come across with a lot of pastors and try to connect with them. And I think that certain pastors get a bit offended, or they get a bit, I dare say, intimidated, because you don't get leaders to be intimidated. They just don't have time to dig into it. So they leave it alone, won't address it, won't deal with it, won't say nothing about it, and then move on, and then never come back. Though they know you're teaching truth and they know you're speaking truth, they may not be able to qualify it or, get it to, to an easy place in their mind so they can articulate it and make the change or suggest it to organization or not. But they'll just drop it off, and then they see you and they're cordial when they see you. But my thing is, I'm trying to get as many pastors and leaders together to study together, not to fuss, argue, anything of that nature, just to share. Hey, this is what we're doing, because that's what the first church did. Can you imagine what would have happened if if Messiah was in modern day, in Christendom as it is, in modern day, and then he selected 12 people on the planet, 120 ended up following him before he ended his life ended in 3.5 years, and then all of them have been their feet washed by him. They were fed by him the Pesach that he was here. They walked the planet with him. They watched him turn 2 fish and 5 loaves into 3,000, 4,000 meal packets. They saw him shift the issues of people's health from one short leg to long leg, and eyes and ears open, all of that stuff, and demons cast out. And then he went on to glory. They saw him get crucified, all of the chaos that went with that. And then suddenly at Messiah's death, burial, and resurrection, and after Shavuot, the Pentecost you call it, suddenly all 120 of them said, you know what? I'm going to go start my own church. I can see today every single solitary one of them would have gone on and said, and used the clout of being in Messiah's ministry to add clout to them having their own separate church over here with 25,000, 60,000, 80,000, 30,000, 40,000, based on the fact that I'm one who he washed the feet of. I'm one who laid his head on his breast. I'm one he told me to go feed the people. I'm one. None of them did what we would do today. I'm calling it like it is. None of them went out and started their own church. Watch this. All those potential pastors and leaders, as we structure them today under the organization structures we have, all of them, watch this, all of them became the pastor, the leadership of the church of Messiah. Where we don't understand what went left was the Catholic Church hijacked what the doctrine of the apostles was, and they put it over Catholicism. They made that the umbrella, the awning over Catholicism. They took the story of Messiah that the apostles were propagating, and then they, by war and by very physical means, commandeered and kidnapped the doctrine of his death, burial, and resurrection, added it to their Catholic element and message, and now you have Christianity. Still got idol worship inside of it. Still has, the thing that the Nicolaitans do. Still has a whole bunch of other stuff that's going on inside of it. But it still talks about, in general, the death, the burial, the resurrection of our Savior. They themselves even think they become Messiah when they give you the Mass. And then they do the Mass every day. And the Mass is not to be done every day. The Mass is done once a year, if you're going to call it that, because that's Pesach. not Catholic Mass. Catholic Mass comes from a whole different Catholic element and belief system. But the Christian church don't know that, because it was enough dealing with the actual split of Catholic and Protestant Christianism. And we who are Protestant Christianism, we just kept the same tenets and kept moving with that. Nobody dug deep enough to realize that you don't do this communion this way. You don't do Christmas. You don't do Easter, because it was too much dealing with the split of Catholicism that we were born into, thinking all that was gospel. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh our Elohim. Have you guys learned something today?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Great teaching.
So,
Definitely.
Pastor Michael and Pastor Mary, I got one more question for y'all before I let y'all go. Thank you so much, Pastor Andrea, for your aid as well. Listen, Pastor Michael, Pastor Mary, if y'all still there, did I lose Michael? I think I lost Michael. Shoot. All right. Pastor Mary, I'm going to come for you. So, Pastor Mary, once Pastor Michael understood what his calling was, and then you figured out what your calling was, do you see a substantial shift in how your ministry functions now? Because he now is not the pastor. You found that you had the calling for pastor, and he had the calling for prophet. How has that felt operating that way?
Apostle, first I want to thank you for this teaching, because not a lot of churches teach it right. And, we get ordained based off of what, they think the space that needs to be filled. So let's look and see, maybe let's put such and such or so in this, fivefold. Let's place them in this gifting. But I was first ordained a minister and then an evangelist, up to the point of Know Your Calling class, which shifted my whole dimension, because I never seen myself as a pastor. But I guess from the class and you taking us through the process of and through the rites, it's not something that everything was right from the rite. I was able actually to stop running away from it and embrace it. And right now it's given me the confidence to, before he would push me, oh, you're the pastor, so you go do this or do that. But now I'm embracing it and I'm able to walk in that calling in the ministry.
Yeah.
It's the confidence that it's given me.
To know, and you see, because when you come through the process, you're not just being told you're a prophet or a pastor. You actually saw it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
You like, darn it, when I do dishes, I'm doing it. When I do the laundry, I'm right? You see it for yourself.
You literally walked us through the rite.
Pastor Andrea. Go ahead, Pastor Mary.
Yes.
No, Pastor Andrea, get ready to come off mic.
I'm glad that we're able to catch the class right when we started ministry, because it's helped us to shift, to see things in a different perspective and actually move aligned with the word of Yahweh.
Correct.
So now when other people come in, we're able to also direct them the right way.
So you're seeing that it's important that when they come in, and though the prophet, now your husband, who you study with, because he's like a monk,
right.
And you, the pastor, who studies with, not under, but with the monk, you're under him because he's your husband, but you're studying with him. And then when you get an unction, babe, I think we're going this way. It's like, yeah, I can confirm that Yahweh is saying this. You're both in agreement, and the ministry moves that way. And now the people who gravitate to the ministry, watch this, you lost a lot of people, didn't you?
Yeah, we did.
But watch this. Watch this. The people who now have gravitated to you were looking for what you now present.
Exactly.
Because our modern day church, we're marketing for people to come to our church. Come to our church, and you're marketing to bring hellions in there who don't desire to know their purpose and calling. They just want to be connected to something that's supposed to be moving in the new thing. And now you wonder why you got all these things that don't seem to be lining up. You have to have people who want truth. Listen, Pastor Spencer, she's going to get this message prepared for y'all. I promise you. When truth speaks, wisdom listens. Hear this, people of God, all the pastors and leaders who are on platform, who are with me on this program, catching this in the archives, going to go back on the replays because I kept the replays on purpose. And I know I'm going to get a lot of flack and a lot of teaching that goes, oh, he's long. You can't, we don't believe that. That's fine. I love you to life eternal. We can still sit down and chat one day. Here's the, any day. Here's the catch. Understand this. When truth speaks, wisdom listens. I'm going to say it again. When truth speaks, wise people listen. Watch this. So if we're not teaching truth in our churches, who's sitting in our pews? We're not. I'm going to say it again. If we're not teaching his truth, operating in his truth, then wise people, most of our churches are not filled with wise people.
Okay.
Y'all want me to smack my hand? Bad, Pastor. Bad, Apostle. Bad Apostle. You shouldn't have said that.
No, you're teaching right. You're teaching right.
Not at all.
You're teaching right.
So if we're trying to figure out why our churches are going through all these scuttlebutts, we're going through all these you hurt me and church hurt and all that garbage, because we don't have wise people in the word, because we are listening to constructs of religiosity that are not founded in his truth, though they have good intentions. But it might sound good, but it's not that truth. And if we're just getting people with itching ears, we're not getting wise people. I didn't say well-educated people. We got a lot of educated people, but we don't have a lot of wise people. I don't care how many degrees you got. Everybody that got degrees ain't wise. So when truth speaks, wisdom will sit and listen. I want a church filled with people who want to sit and listen to truth. That means I got to be one who is going to teach truth. And that's the only way I can get wise people in the ministry. And I'd rather work with 5 wise people in ministry than 500 listening, whistling, itching ears.
Amen.
Only one of us said amen. All right, it's clearly time for me to end this conversation. I think I might have irritated somebody.
Amen.
Amen.
So when you start to make this transition, if your whole purpose of building your church is around business and not the business of the Father, then when you start speaking the truth of the Father, your business plan breaks down, because people are going to leave because they don't want that. That ain't that deep. I just want itching ears. I want to hear some little glistening thing. I can go and preach and start my own business that you got and have a business like you got. And that ain't what the kingdom is about. The kingdom is making sure that everybody gets a better relationship with the Father and they have a place to get resources from. And therefore, the business of the kingdom is what's put out there and propagated. And I don't have to sell you on truth. When truth speaks, you're like, hey, I want that. You ain't got to be sold that. Just speak truth. You'll clamor the truth. That's why when we come around to certain places and you see all these people flocked into these big, arenas and spaces, and you're like, okay, I'm not shooting. And let me say this right now. I'm not shooting any kind of shade anywhere. I'm just telling y'all the true assessment. So you got these rooms filled with all these people, and you got these other rooms filled with this consistent 50, 60, 20 people. At the end of the day, that truth, these people like, this is truth to me. This is life to me. Y'all can keep all of that, because broad is the way.
Jesus.
Many are they that will travel that way. Narrow is the way, and few there'll be that find it. So for me, when I hear someone speaking truth, I'm going to go sit down and listen. I want wise people in our congregation. That's why I deem you people wise, and not because I deem myself truthful, because I'm jacked up. I'm like Paul. I still wonder, how the heck do you use me, Yahweh? Its only reason could be because I really seek to know him. What did you want? I got my degree over here. I got this degree over there. I went and got all this higher education of man's knowledge. I'm seeing that it doesn't line up with your word. But if I teach your word in this arena, which is filtered and overflowing with man's knowledge, then the people of that arena, they go over there and then they ostracize you over, and you're just left and you're like, okay, well, what? He's like, no. Everybody has to answer to what they believe. And it's not like the places that are filling these rooms are intentionally speaking untruths. They just think what they're teaching is the truth. We have to, in all that we get understanding. Once we get understanding, once we understand it, then we got to come together and say, yo, we blew this. And I've had to go back. Listen, I had to go back over many years of my teachings and throw away hundreds of sermons. I mean, we made money on them sermons. Every CD, every tape, if y'all see how far I went back, the little cassette tapes, every tape, we threw them away and burned them. Every CD, I broke them. Some had good stuff in them, but it was still shrouded in doctrine of denomination. I got rid of all of them on a command of Yahweh, and we reset our library to teach strictly the writ, no longer commentary. We don't want to teach what's trending. We want to teach what gets you to hear the Father say, well done. Because that's the only way you're getting into his rest. And you can't well do him if you don't know his instructions, because religion tells you don't read his instructions, because that was for the Jews, which makes religion clearly an error, because there was not a Jew given when there was not a Jew born, or there wasn't a Jew on the planet when the instructions were given. So that's an error in itself that we need to rectify. We need to reconcile that. So to you that are here with us today on the broadcast for the preceding word, we went way over time. But Pastor Angela, I had to ask the question between you and Pastor Mary. My batteries are all going low. And I want to make sure, my batteries are going real low. I want to make sure you guys all get this and understand this. Pastor Mary, you were operating as an ordained minister already. Is that right, Pastor Andrea and Pastor Mary?
Yes. Minister, evangelist.
They gave you all these different titles. None of them was yours.
None of them were close to what my true calling was.
Right. And because, we were trained to do things in a religious structure and construct, we did that because that was what we knew to do. Nothing wrong with that. You were trying to obey and do what was right.
Right.
And but once now that you and your pastor, now your husband, who was pastor, and you were minister evangelist, now that you both have understood, oh, I can evangelize, I can pastor, but to know what I actually am means that I can now lend myself to what's missing in our church and not get upset if someone else comes in and fill that slot, because it makes me rubber band back into what I'm actually born to do.
Right.
And then I can support them getting that office up and running. And now we got more of a fivefold ministry functioning. And either of us can flip into the other office as needed until Yahweh brings someone who is really ready to get right. And we can get them built up over some time to get into that position. And then we can start identifying our callings and others who come in to hear these truths spoken. The more wise people coming in hearing that truth, they're going to also be willing to know their calling, and we can get them prepared so that we can have that function working in our ministry. It does not mean that you are the prophet if you are amongst other prophets. You are the pastor just because there'll be other pastors with you. The function of orientation and the function of leading the way, the function of foundationalizing, the function of carrying the gospel is a teamwork. There should be a team of evangelists. There should be a team of prophets. There should be a team of pastors. There should be a team of teachers, all in the same house. But everybody's trying to be the big dog. So once you guys learn that, and now Prophet Pastor Michael, you being a true born prophet, a pastor, who was labeled an evangelist, who now, how much easier is this for you guys preparing your services and your way of worship and communicating it to the people? How much easier is this for you? Are you guys resting better?
It's easier now. It's not a job. It's something that we're passionate about now.
It's not a job. Is that what you said?
Yes.
It's your lifestyle.
Yes, it's the lifestyle now.
Now you get
it. Able to work together.
Listen, I'm with you 100%. I do not think of what I do anymore as a job. It is my life. I wake up every morning. Right. I go to bed every day doing it. All my meetings that make me busy, y'all know my schedule is crazy busy. It's my life. It's not a job.
Absolutely.
The greatest job you can ever have is doing the thing you were made to do. KYC, now y'all get it?
KYC.
I
need some KYC folk to tell me y'all got that, because y'all still mad at me.
We get it. We got it.
So Pastor Andrea, let me talk to you for a second. We're going to end this right here. Pastor Andrea, you still there, beloved?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay, I need you to speak up just a little bit. But here's the catch. Pastor Andrea, now you were already a minister, ordained, sanctioned, functioning in ministry, full throttle, going all board and everything the pastor needed from you. But how was it when you finally realized now, after you had been doing it so long, and I know your story a little bit, it sort of kind of bothered you, and some things caused a division for you from the ordaining elements. How much easier it is for you to realize that, one, you are a pastor, and two, just because you are a born pastor, you don't have to be on the pulpit to do your job.
Thank God for that.
No, I don't think the people heard you rightly.
Understanding the role has made me feel confident. And the reason why I feel confident is because I was doing it all my life. And I fully realized that on the KYC course. Not promoting the KYC course, I'm just saying. I organically found out via the writ and understanding and confirming what you're saying, that at the night when this is what we are born to do. And then so having realized all those things, I accepted it, and it felt like it was right. And it is right, actually. That's how I feel. It is right. And in addition, I also say, because I know we've had a conversation, and I came to you to ask you, well, what do I do now?
Now that I know my calling, what do I do now? How do I do it now in church?
Yeah. But you brought the question back on me, and in that conversation, I realized, like I just said earlier, I've been doing this all my life, and the attributes that I have, I've been using it all the time, and so therefore, this is organic. If that's the correct word. Yes, Elohim, Yahweh given and organically found, put into fruition. Yeah.
So it's like you've now realized, one, because most of us who are even pastors, we got a lot of pastors committing suicide. Y'all know why that is? Because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know why they're there. Well, wait a minute now, Mr. Pastor, Mr. You, I know you might have been teaching well, but you can't dare say that as to why they commit. People are bailing out and trying to find any way of an escape. One, I don't believe anybody leaves this planet unless Yahweh says so. Two, we get caught up in how a person leaves. But three, we got to deal with the mindset. I'm telling you right now how many pastors, leaders, apostles, prophets, and bishops who will come to me like Nicodemus in the night saying, man, I'm way over my head here. And I know I keep speaking loud and talking hard to get people to back down. But I know for a fact, I can't even answer some of these questions. And I'm like, look, I'm not going to expose you. Let's study together. Here, go back down, fill that void. And I'm like, and as they're doing it, I've had several, and we're not saying no names, that have come to me and said, man, I need to know my calling. So I'll take them privately through KYC. And they're like, oh, snap. So I'm not the pastor. I'm this. And the more they start to embrace the this that they are, they realize they're lending themselves to that. Because if you think you're that, you're the ugly duckling, and you're not a duck. You're a swan, or you're a quail, or you're an eagle, or you're whatever. You're not a duck, but you're trying to be a duck. That makes you ugly. So you pastoring a church when you're not a duck, or you're pastoring a church when you're not a pastor, you have no idea that you are ugly in that position, and you are making it difficult for other people. This is where church hurt comes from. Then you got people prophesying to people, thinking that this is the office of the prophet, and getting billings and getting honorariums and making offerings because you say you're a prophet, and that's not what the prophet does. And now people's lives are in shambles because you said something that they held on to. Sad for them too, but you can't do. That's not what the prophet does. The prophet does not go and set up something. The prophet supports through direction, through sound counsel, making sure what the pastors, evangelists are teaching is in the word. The teacher makes sure that what the pastor and the evangelist is teaching, and the apostles make sure that the word is what it's about. This ain't about you going out raising money for the church. If you're teaching the truth, the church will build itself. Woo, let me get off this. This is a whole nother subject. I got.
Where's the supposed to teach that?
It's time for me to go. Let me get off the program. All right, we're gonna shut it down. I didn't hit send yet. Y'all, I want y'all to get that. I think I put y'all to sleep. Yeah. I talked too much again. Did I give y'all overload?
Not at all. No.
Y'all sound asleep though. Yeah, we still here. Right?
Let him use you.
Understand that.
Good word. Oh, we woke up.
So I'm hoping that all things become as they need to be. I realize that we've had many in and out, pop in and pop out. Some will take sound bites and not get the whole story. So be careful what you see. It's coming. Just know. But if you don't know your calling, we did not come on to propagate and advertise know your calling, but we do propagate what fivefold ministry is and what we're doing. How does fivefold ministry actually function in the earth? Watch. Inside of all the tribes that were in the wilderness, and inside of all the people that were in the church of Messiah, everyone knew their calling, and they aided the community based on that. Teachers would support pastors. Pastors would orient people. The evangelists would bring in the converts, and the converts would then be dropped off to everybody supported whatever a person and entity need. Teachers would surround themselves under the evangelists. Apostles would gather under the teachers, and the prophets would gather with the pastor, and they would just make sure that everything was about his word. So whatever we talked out of this meeting was the same thing. We don't have that today. We do have it, but in a different way, in a more secular way. And the world has taken the principles of the kingdom and applied them more effectively than the kingdom has. Because now they've given you commentary and they say, if you want a degree, you study these books. This is what we teach. So we're all teaching the same thing. And then those things that they're being taught are what they master with good intentions, because they're being told by the leaders that they trust and they have given themselves subjected to. I trust my leaders and they're telling me to study this. And then when they get hit by their own studies, by something that says, well, leader, what about this? No, don't listen to that. Just read the book. Did you read the book I told you to read? Go read that book. That's all you study. And then I'm gonna get you a church next month. Of course, you go there, you do that. If your ideal for coming into ministry was to start your own church and do your own business like they got, then that's what you sort of kind of gravitate to. Then there's some of you who are like, there's got to be more to this than that, and I'm not going to sell my soul for the money. I do know that I'm called to help. I don't know how to help. KYC can help you understand your purpose. So when you do help in other arenas that need help, you don't get caught trying to be that, because you know you're lending yourself to that, but you're going to always be you. I just said something deeper than y'all said amen to. Make that a reel or something. I don't know if we can do that.
Amen.
All right. So I know we went on longer than we should have gone on, but that's what we do. Moderators, I think I'm done here. Is there anybody, before I get off of here, anybody on platform, particularly pastors or leaders, who might want to make a comment or share? I can give 30 seconds to about 2 people if they'd like to take an opportunity to share or say something with regards to what we've learned today on the Proceeding Word. Anyone?
Gayla.
Hi, Gayla. Hey, shalom, Gayla. I didn't know you was down there, Queen. Good to see you today.
I am. Thank you. When do you do the class or training?
Now, Gayla, didn't I tell you we not here promoting KYC? You trying to get me in trouble? Staff gonna have my head. No, I'm just teasing. We do the class. The next KYC is coming up actually within the next 2 weeks. So if you want to know more about KYC, Dr. Stewart is on here. Dr. Stewart, come off mic if you're here. Is she on platform?
She is.
Is she asleep? Dr. Stewart, are you asleep? She has a tendency of going to sleep when I'm teaching. If I don't get her to speak, she just goes to sleep on me. Dr. Stewart, you there? Dr. Stewart? She's probably busy. The sleeping thing was a joke, y'all. Don't throw her under the bus. Sleeping thing's a joke. All right, so if you guys want to know about KYC, inbox. Matter of fact, you know what you do. Elder Page, is Elder Page on platform today? Elder Page is not on platform. Elder Page is on platform? Elder Page.
Yeah.
Elder Page, can you hear me, beloved? I'm sure she's probably setting my schedule up. All right. So if you do, guys, I want you to inbox Dr. Stewart. It's the only animated moderator with her neck crooked, acting like she a professor in the class, smacking her hands like everybody pay attention. That's Dr. Stewart. You can do 2 things. If you are interested in the course that you're on Clubhouse, Wanda Clark, I'm so glad. Yes, inbox us. You can inbox me on Facebook. Inbox me directly on Facebook. I'll go back and check them later on today. Or you can back channel me on here on VWJ Ministries. Go to me at VW. My picture's up there with my blue jacket on, our branding picture, which we're going to be changing soon. And or you can back channel Elder Page, Adriana Page. She's got the big smile. She's one of the moderators with the big smile. I don't know how to highlight her, but she's up as a moderator. Her name is Adriana, Elder Adriana Page. You can inbox her, back channel Dr. Stewart, or back channel me. The best thing to do is to back channel Dr. Stewart. And she will then give you the information. And and it will be, I think we got, I might be wrong, guys. I'm gonna get in trouble because I'm doing this off cuff. I think we scheduled the next one to begin because it's an 8-week course, guys. It's an 8-week course, and it's real. You're gonna come out of there with much more than you went in looking for. You're gonna come out with so much more. So it's an 8-week course, and I think we start the next one in the first week of August. I think it starts on, I think it's August the 9th. I'm almost certain. I could be wrong, but I think it starts August the 9th. That's 2 weeks away. There is a monetary attachment. There is tuition. There are limited scholarships, but there are scholarships for those with real issues. There's payment plans. It ain't about the money, y'all. It's about you knowing your calling. That's what we're concerned about. But we do have professional professors, doctorates in theology. We have doctorates in education, who are professors, adjunct professors that are teaching and sharing this. And I have to hire them to help me get this done in case I'm not the lead professor in that particular day. So you get me and Dr. Stewart in most cases. And well, anybody from KYC, did y'all get more than your tuition?
Yes.
Yes.
Much more. Yes. Much more.
Yeah. And so was it worth the 8 weeks?
It's too short. Every more. Feel like we could have done more. Yes, it's true. It's true. You get a lot more, and for me personally, it's Andrea speaking. For me personally, there's still things that's been revealed to me even now because of that course.
Yeah, because what we do is we teach you actually how to study the writ, not just how to read the Bible. Roundtree, it sounded like you had something you wanted to say.
No, sir.
Oh, okay. I thought you said your name. Lindo, you sound like you had something to say.
Well, it's just that it was so much so in depth for even that 8-week period. It feels like there's so much more we could go on learning, but what you've learned prepare you even greater than the expectation, and you weren't even beginning to be ready for what you gained. It was just quite a bit, and it was very powerful to me. Still reeling from it. I still go back to it from time to time and look at my notes.
Yahweh be praised. Does anybody else go back and check their notes? And once now that does anybody else use the study techniques now beyond KYC classing?
Yes.
Who was that?
I do.
Whose name?
Andrea, I do.
Oh, okay.
Mary.
Mary.
I still use that.
Thanks, Janet.
All of that.
Thank you. Mary, what'd you say?
I said I still use it. Actually, even today I had to pull out my notes, reference back to it. But studying the reads, I'm still using it.
Is it because it helps you to actually go into the writ to stay focused on how to study the writ without the use of commentary?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Andrea, yes.
Yeah. I don't have enough brothers on here. I don't know why. I think we bore the brothers when we talk, but we're glad to have each of you. So listen, if you're interested, Queen Gayla, I'm so glad you asked, but we were not trying to promote that. It's just that we wanted to make sure you guys understood the fivefold ministry gift. So Gayla, Queen Gayla, can I ask you a question? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Because what matters to me is I want to make sure we didn't go on a stupor here and promote the course. But do you see the purpose of fivefold ministry kingdom intended as opposed to Christian given? Does that come out at all in this teaching today?
Yes, very much.
Okay. And so you're inquiring about the KYC because that's just a tool we use to help get to this particular understanding of intent. Okay, cool. So yes. And so if you want to know more about it, the best thing you can do is inbox me in the back channels. I will get back to you. If you don't get me, get to Dr. Stewart. If I don't get back to you quick enough, you get to Dr. Stewart or you get to Elder Page, Adriana Page, and they will make sure that all the information that you request will get to me. And this is what we do. So everything that you would want to know about the fivefold ministry gift and the fivefold ministry, the kingdom of Elohim, using the fivefold ministry construct, we take you back to where the first fivefold ministry started. And when you're done, you will be able to identify yourself, what you do naturally. And even if, here's the thing I love about it, is people will sort of kind of start the class and then stop, because it's like, it's this redundant thing. And then they'll like say, well, if that's all it is, then I can do it myself. KYC, is that true? Or do you need to be guided through it?
You can't do that by yourself.
You can't. You cannot. You cannot.
Not at all.
You got to finish the thing. But I promise you, if you come through KYC, and I think it's August the 9th. I'll make sure I double check with Dr. Stewart. I think it's August the 9th. That's about 2 weeks away. But to understand, KYC is to really understand how to read the writ and not just read the Bible. And you will get far more. And we do this on purpose. You will get far more than what the tuition has you aligned with. And the tuition ain't nothing, quite frankly, as compared to courses. It ain't about money. It's about making sure that we have, the proper platforms paid for and the speakers paid for, so that you can get this invaluable lesson. Because it shows you how to read the writ, and you will use this forever. It ain't something you're going to put and tuck in the book and leave it on the countertop. It's a simple syllabus, but it takes particular execution to get it done, and you extract the nectar of it. That's the goal of it. So if you want to know about it, if you're on Facebook, inbox me on Facebook, messenger me, I think it is, and you should be able to messenger VWJ Ministries on Facebook. I'll be able to get to it myself, as well as just hit me on Clubhouse in the back channels, or Elder Page, Dr. Stewart, them people, and they will help get you and it scheduled. If you need a payment plan or what have you, they work all that stuff out. So August 9th, I think, is the registration, the last day you can register or something like that. But they'll be able to fill you in on the information once we get started. I just show up. They tell me where to go. I just show up and teach. I wrote it. I set it out. We broke it all down, but they schedule me. They think they're the boss of me. Okay. But they going to learn one day. Well, they probably right anyway. So hope you guys have enjoyed the day's preceding word. And okay, that was one person. So we gave Miss Gala, Queen Gala, space. Anybody else want to take 30 seconds? Anybody?
Jackie.
Minister Jackie, go ahead, beloved.
Just to say as well, it's not just about knowing your purpose when you come out of the course. It's actually understanding what each of those offices, how they function and operate, so that we in the body can work collectively together, not tripping over each other, not pushing each other out of the way, but we understand how we function to advance this work. And so for me, most definitely, its purpose is necessary for each and every one of us to know our office and our purpose and our calling, but also to understand each and every single one of those offices, because we are not taught this. Thank you, Apostle.
Oh, Yahweh be praised. No, thank you for expressing that again, because it keeps us right now in Christendom. We're all jockeying for position. We should never be jockeying for position in competition to be this, that, or the other. And you got voting going on, who's going to be the bishop, and voting going on, who's going to be the senior pastor, and voting going on. That's not Elohim. That's not kingdom. That's church. That's not Elohim. And that's why we're having fighting and ragings and competitions and biases that are unnecessary. All right, I think I've talked way too long, guys. Our preceding word went for 4 hours. Do y'all believe that? 3 hours and 21 minutes. My bad. Moderators, tell us why we're here.
Shalom. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And most certainly, I know that everybody has taken away something. I'm going to encourage each and every one of you that are here to do two things. One, share this broadcast. Secondly, go back and listen to the replay. If you want to hear the replay, you can pick that up here on Clubhouse, but you can also find us on Facebook at VWJ Ministries, where you can access this recording along with many more. We are here under the Preceding Word every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be back here this evening at 7 p.m. for our weekly Bible study, where we are having a talk and discussion about Sukkot, because we are proclaiming the feast of Yahweh. Sukkot is on its way, so do come and join us. We will be here tomorrow, Thursday, at 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our weekly Bible Book Club, where we continue to take a very slow and exhaustive read through the book of Genesis, and we are around about Genesis 14. We honor Sabbath, so we are here every Friday from 11 p.m. where we continue to go from Genesis right down to Deuteronomy. We keep it Torah-based. We look at the how to Sabbath, and then we will pick up those studies again on Saturday at 11 a.m. We are an operational, and I'm proud to say, a functional ministry, and we open for us weekly Sunday service. That's our Morrow after Sabbath service, which is every Sunday at 10:15 a.m., where we broadcast live from Facebook, and we invite you to join us here in Clubhouse. Please note, if you see at the top, we have pinned the 21-day challenge, Man in the Mirror. So we are asking that question every day as you look in the mirror: who do you emanate? The Word or the world? We have started 2 days ago, but if it's just come to your knowledge today, you can still continue and start as the 21-day challenge. Please to note that if you want to pick up the memes or find out more about the challenge, you can go over to Instagram at VWJ Ministries. Thank you. It has been a pleasure serving. Apostle, back to you.
So grateful, and thank you very much for the time that you've given unto us. We have the best minds on the planet. To all of you who have come on, to all the pastors, prophets, evangelists, pastors, teachers, and leaders, I am so honored to sit and chat with many of you. I'm hoping that all things can be something that we strive to do in unity and work together. I am again on location traveling, so please forgive me for not being in our studio, but we have to do what we got to do. I got to get out of here and handle some business so that we can get ready, prepared for you for Shabbat, as well as being ready and prepared for you for tonight's Bible study. You don't want to miss tonight's Bible study, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're talking about Sukkah. Watch this. Watch this. Love is what it does. What's the connection between Sukkah? What's that got to do with anything? Love is what it does. You're going to learn what Sukkah, the feast of the fall, really means. All right, we've already been into it. Hope you'll join us for tonight's study. And then we want to make sure that you guys labor to enter into the Shabbat, the rest coming up on Friday at sundown until Saturday at sundown. Get your work done so you can rest in him and be refreshed, renewed, restored, reinvigorated, and luxuriate in his word. My name is Apostle B.W. Jones. Remember, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh, who is our Elohim. Father, we thank you for these who have gathered. I thank you for the ability to share your words, your way. I hope the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart have been acceptable in your sight. You are our strength. You are our Redeemer. And I ask you that all things spoken glorify you and you alone. No advocating of man's intellect, commentary, or programming. You are what we want to actually exalt. Help your people to find you in what's been expressed and explained. In the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach, we leave now, hoping that you will cause these things to saturate the hearts of your people. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, who is Jesus the Christ, to many we say, Amen. All right, everybody, we say shalom to you. May Yahweh bless you and keep you is our earnest prayer, and we look to see you very soon. Remember, Proceeding Word coming up this week will also be on Friday, and we got something we're going to talk about. You might want to tune in for it. Hope to see you guys then. Have a great day. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope that this message has been a blessing to your very life and your soul, and more importantly, your walk with the King. Well, we have come to the end. I hope that you would consider becoming either a partner with us in ministry, or if you're not already a kingdom citizen, consider becoming one. By doing that, you can sow into this ministry so that we are able to continue to teach this type of ministry at a grand scale. Join us on all of our social media platforms and visit our webpage to make your contributions sure. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Shalom Aleichem.